My psycho mother smashes my Nintendo Switch all because of my spoiled, crazy older brother who literally manipulated the entire situation to make it seem like our argument was my fault. And now I feel so distressed that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm really upset right now because I'm not in the position to buy a new Nintendo Switch, and this crazy lady wasn't even the one who bought the Switch. I can't even go asking her to pay for a repair or a new Switch because she's insane. Like, she's genuinely crazy, and I still just go crawling back to her. First, she smashed up my phone a few years ago, broke the PS4 a year ago, and now my only thing left was the Nintendo Switch that she smashed up. And guess what? Every single time she did it was because of her eldest son, who, keep in mind, is a grown man. He is 22 years old as of now, but every single time he caused an incident, he was above the age of 19. So I guess he's equally as entitled as his narcissistic mother. He's equally as narcissistic and manipulative. I mean, my God, I hate them both so much. The only reason I go crawling back to my evil mother is because I'm financially dependent on her until I finish school. I have my A-levels around the corner, which is something we do in my country towards the end of high school, so I've paused with a job search for now. My brother caused this entire incident as I was playing with my little brother, and his entitled self kept pestering us to play. We were in the middle of doing something, and we wanted to continue all night to gain experience, but we made a compromise to him. We told him to come back in an hour and then we'll play Switch Sports with him. Well, this grown man baby decided to start touching the controller as I had left it because it was an AFK map on Fortnite. And then when I moved it away from his narcissistic self, he started getting really angry, as in he kept moving his hand towards the controller when I moved it, and then I told him to stop touching it, and he just kept swearing in God's name that he wasn't when clearly he was. So yeah, he kept doing that, and I seriously just lost my mind. I was yelling at him and I was telling him to leave the controller. I said that we made a compromise, so please, why can't you just stop? And so I went to my entitled mother to tell her entitled son to stop, and of course she was sucking up to him, telling me it's not her problem and he can do whatever he wants, and that maybe I should just let him play. And it's like, seriously, what's going on right now? So as I went to her, he started getting really angry, like shouting a lot. He was swearing and saying he wasn't touching it and all this other stuff, and he started getting really crazy towards me. And you know what? That's what set her off, because she can't bear to see her son in distress, and so she went crazy and she started attacking me and my younger brother, where she eventually got the Nintendo Switch cords and smashed it on the floor, yelling at us by saying that we're torturing her and her son. And I honestly can't stand these people, and at this point I don't know what to do. Oh man, this really is insane. Your mom literally flew off the handle all because you're like, hey, can you tell my brother to stop? Can you literally get this grown man off my back? Like, seriously, that's a normal request of a sibling. That is not unusual because this guy was being annoying, and now you're somehow being punished for something that you didn't even do. So truly, I'm so sorry you're dealing with that, and hopefully one day soon you're able to move out and get away from these people, because literally they do not sound like good people in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. A bunch of construction workers leave a wall of bricks on the sidewalk, which quite literally forced me and my dog to walk into the street just to avoid it. So I decided to get some petty revenge by leaving dog droppings right where the bricks were laid, hopefully sending a message that this is absolutely unacceptable. Here's what happened. Okay, so I usually walk my dog through two different paths, one in the morning and one at night. When walking the morning path yesterday, passing by a small construction site, I was surprised by a wall of bricks occupying the whole sidewalk, and I thought to myself, wow, that's kind of a jerk move. Not even a traffic cone to make people safer when they had to stop on the street, but they were working, carrying the bricks into the site and loading more. So it was inconvenient, but I thought it was just a passing nuisance. Well, today's Friday and a holiday. I went the same route again, and guess what? Another wall of bricks. And when I looked around, nobody was working. They just left that stuff there. And once again, the dog and I had to navigate it. Getting back to the other side of the obstacle, the dog starts sniffing it. He then takes a crap right next to the bricks, and on autopilot, I start leaning to remove his mess, but I wait a minute right then and there. I think to myself, screw these guys. I'm sure they'll walk there and nobody else will, because they'll be dodging the blockade. So you know what? I just leave it. Tomorrow I'll be doing the same route again, and if it's still there, I'll encourage the dog to take another dump right there, and probably also take some photos. I'm new to the city, but if it's not too much work, I'll send it to the government. The neighborhood is pleasant, but I think the city has its priorities pretty messed up, so I have no clue if it'll make a difference. All the sidewalks are on completely different levels, and some are full of holes, and in fact, I sprained my ankle last week because of that. The standard paving material they seem to love over here is very slippery when wet, and trust me, it always rains. Not to mention, there's absolutely no bike lanes anywhere, but they somehow found the time to pass a law blocking non-castrated dogs from dog hotels. I mean, there's one right on my morning route, but of course I can't use it. So it really looks like the city was made to instill pettiness in me. So you know what? Your construction site is your problem, and it's not something I should have to deal with on my morning walk. Okay, I gotta say, I really love this kind of like petty revenge, because it's only apparent if you know what's going on. Like seriously, I completely agree with the original poster here. The public sidewalk is not where you should stack your bricks. It's blocking everybody and it's getting in the way. So I think that leaving some dog droppings is not that big of a deal, and if anything, it leaves a very solid message that these guys need to move their stuff because they are inconveniencing literally everybody. Am I the jerk for not letting my ex-boyfriend sell the tickets that I got him for his birthday? Because right now he's saying that I'm the jerk for not complying with his demands, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things out, me and my ex-boyfriend, who we will call Brad, had been together for 4 years, and we recently broke up in March. Nothing crazy, it's just that he no longer wanted a relationship, and I am devastated, and I felt like it came out of nowhere, but I respect his decision. The only complication is that we still live together, as I know finding somewhere to live quickly in our city is extremely difficult and expensive. So for the time being, we are still living together until he can move out. Okay, now let's move on. Last fall, I bought Brad 2 tickets to his favorite DJ as a birthday present, and I figured he could bring a friend or someone, since I never intended to go as I don't like rave music. It's also important to note that the tickets were $400. His birthday was last week, and I debated giving him his gift or not, since we are no longer dating, but I figure I might as well since we both take birthdays seriously. He seemed unexcited when I gave him the gift, which crushed my feelings since it was pretty expensive for me. Then I saw on Facebook a few days later that he was selling 2 tickets to the show. Feeling crushed, I asked him why, and he said he actually already had tickets, so he was selling his so that he could use mine. And it's like, sure, I guess that made sense to me. Then the last 2 days he's been pestering me to send him the tickets on Ticketmaster. When I asked why, he said he might just sell all 4 for the money and not go to the concert at all. Apparently the show is sold out and they are worth a lot. But again, I was crushed since I spent all that money specifically as a gift so he could see his favorite DJ. He said it's his gift and that I'm being a jerk by taking the tickets back. Now, I don't think I'm being a jerk, but if he doesn't want them, I'd rather get my money back. But now he's saying he's gonna sell 3 of them to his friend and keep 1 ticket, which would make me feel better overall, as I feel weird about the whole thing, since I'm still emotional about the breakup and cannot think clearly. So am I being the jerk for not letting him sell the tickets since they were a present? Because right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, what in the world is going on right now? First of all, you should have not given those tickets to him at all, because clearly this guy just doesn't care about you. He's pretending to, but trust me, I just don't think he really gives a crap. And the biggest proof is the way he's acting towards those tickets you gifted him. He's literally not even going to the show anymore, and he's only trying to sell those tickets so that he can get your money. Like for me, if I bought tickets for someone and they're like, never mind, send me the tickets, I'm gonna sell them, then personally I would lose my mind and be like, no, I'm not gonna do that. I would rather keep them and sell them myself since you don't give a crap about the tickets. And sure, it's his gift, but guess what? I feel it only really counts if he actually goes to the concert. The value is in going to the thing instead of trying to sell the tickets and be like, oh, I got some money. Because if that was the case, then you would have just given him $400 instead of $400 worth of tickets. So no, you're not the jerk for not wanting to give those over to him, but I do think you would be the jerk if you cave and give it to him anyways, because this guy broke up with you and he clearly does not care about you, and you deserve way better than this. Would I be the jerk if I brought up the fact that my mom stole all of my tuition money that my father gave to me for college? Because right now I'm starting to think that I'm not totally over that situation, or the fact that I had to keep a secret from my dad, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so when I was preparing to go to university, my mom confessed that there was no tuition money for me. Through the years, my dad would give her cash to deposit, but she only did that for the first one, and instead she spent the rest of it. And to be completely honest, I wasn't even surprised. I was used to being disappointed by her. She promised that she would pay me back and asked that I never tell my dad. So for 4 years, I thanked them for the tuition money, all while I took out loans. For reasons to do with her narcissism, I have an arm's length relationship with her, but she would say that we're pretty close, as she assumes my smiling and nodding while she drones on about the same stories is somehow a relationship. Now, we have a family cottage that she puts above everything else. She lives there about 90 days of the year, and I've been going there with my girlfriend for about 4 days for a couple of summers, which she always begrudges, as it takes away from her time. But thankfully, my dad supports my going, which is how I pull it off. Well, she recently told me that it was time for me to start paying for some of the maintenance on the cottage, since I also use it. She actually suggested $1,000, which is wildly disproportionate, but instead of doing that, I told her straight up that she could take it out of the tuition I owe you, and we could negotiate negotiate the amount with Dad. When I said that, she was speechless. She texted me later to say that it was a manipulative thing to bring up the tuition and to even insinuate that I would tell Dad. And she just went on and on. Now, I've been thinking about it, and for starters, I'm hurt and offended that she can't just do a nice thing for me and she has to get something for it. And secondly, I guess I'm not really over the whole tuition thing. So truly, would I be the jerk for bringing up ancient history and not paying her for use of the cottage? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, I don't think you would be the jerk, but seriously, I can't understand why you kept this from your dad. The second a parent is trying to be like, ooh, keep this a secret from my spouse, that's the second I'm gonna go to the other person and be like, hey, mom's saying some weird stuff, what's going on? Like, this is seriously so messed up. She literally stole money out of your pocket so that you could go to college, and that is honestly not okay. And I don't care if it's ancient history or whatever you want to call it. If I was in your shoes, I would absolutely scream it from the rooftops, especially if I let it go this far in my life. So no, you would not be the jerk if you did talk about this, because the way she's treating you, in my opinion, is completely inappropriate. An entitled jerk steals my seat on an airplane, forcing me to sit somewhere that I absolutely did not pay for. So I decided to get some revenge by swapping seats with another woman who was so overweight that she literally squished this guy into a seat in a way that I'm sure was incredibly uncomfortable. Here's what happened. Last week, I took a flight from Athens all the way to London, where I'd been visiting relatives. It was a late flight, I was exhausted, and the plane was full. I was in a window seat, which I had chosen since I could rest my head against the walls and sleep, but when I got to my row, there was a guy in my seat. He had big headphones on and had his head turned away from me. I tried telling him that he is in my seat, but he just doesn't respond. Thinking that maybe he can't hear me because of the headphones, I gently tap him on the shoulder, but still I get no reaction. I try again, but I still get nothing, and at this point, he doesn't even turn towards me. And I also need to add that this guy is clearly not asleep. He's sitting upright and I can see his eyes are open. I consider calling over a flight attendant to ask him to move, but there isn't one nearby, and I'm not in the mood for it to be a whole thing. So I just take the middle seat and I quietly fume. A few minutes later, the young woman who is sitting in the aisle seat arrives and takes her seat. She is traveling with her friend, who is sitting in the window seat in the row behind us. They're talking to each other across their seats. Then the woman sitting in the aisle seat turns to me and asks if I can swap with her friend so they can sit together. And to that, I just say sure, no problem. Now at this point, it is important to point out that her friend is very fat. We're talking borderline obese. And no, I'm not fat shaming at all. I'm a heavy guy myself, but she is at least twice as wide as me. I probably would have swapped even if she had not been fat. But you know what? I saw a chance at getting revenge. As I get up to move, I see the guy sitting in my seat has turned around and realize what is about to happen. He does not look happy and gives me a look like he's saying, please don't move. But you know what? I ignore him and I swap the seats. I then spent the flight mostly with my eyes closed as I try and fail to get a nap in. But I do occasionally have a look at the row in front of me, and I'm very satisfied to see that the fat woman in front of me is taking up nearly half the window seat as well as her own seat, and that the guy in my seat is squashed up against the wall of the plane. So I really hope he spent the flight thinking about how if he had just taken his own seat, he would have been able to swap with a fat woman, and I would have been the one pinned against the wall. So maybe next time, think twice before you take someone else's seat, because something like this easily could happen again. Yeah, I can't stand people who steal seats on airplanes and then don't even have the common courtesy of talking to you about it. I also want to say that it's crazy to me that you didn't speak up and say something, because that guy was clearly in the wrong. There's no good excuse for that. He literally stole your seat and is trying to sit there. He deserves to be moved, because you know what? This easily could have not worked out in your favor. That lady could have been like, oh, I'm just gonna stay where I'm at, and then you're stuck in a seat that doesn't belong to you. I think it was really lucky that you wanted to switch, and it is instead just overall unfair that you had to do that. But thankfully, karma was on your side, and from the sounds of it, this guy absolutely deserved to get shut down. My boss took credit for my work and openly admits that that's exactly what he does. So I decided to get some malicious compliance by only doing my job and thus forcing my boss into a corner that he never got out of. Here's what happened. A few years ago, I was hired as a manager to create the contracts department of a tech startup. My boss was on an opposite coast as me, and we barely spoke. About a year in, the company hired consultants to overhaul departments, that is, except for contracts, because it was running so smoothly. And you know what? I was truly proud of this. In fact, the company sent me on a paid vacation to the Bahamas as a thank you. After I got back from vacation, I asked for a raise to director level, but my boss said that I just wasn't there. I asked for a list of what I need to do to be a director, and he sent me a list which, by the way, was everything I was already doing, and basically admitted that if I was a director, he would no longer be able to take credit for my work. Friends told me I needed to either leave or put up and shut up, but instead, I chose to destroy with kindness. I wholeheartedly apologized to my manager for supposedly overstepping and said that I'm going to step step back into the manager role. I then printed out the manager responsibilities and I posted them to my desk. Well, things went south quicker than I could have even imagined. Things went bad when we started missing sales targets. Products said that my boss agreed to a term in an agreement that would completely destroy their budget and product rollout. My boss didn't know commission agreements and let sales manipulate contracts, so we were paying commission on contracts with termination clauses. I only interjected once to stop a contract amendment from being approved because my boss was unknowingly letting a vice president artificially inflate sales numbers. The controller and CFO had to get involved, and eventually the CEO was called in. Stories started circulating about my boss holding stress balls and cursing in meetings. But you know what? I was more relaxed than ever, and during my newfound free time at work, I studied for and obtained professional certifications. I would also leave work early to get to the gym before it got busy. About a month after I unloaded my added responsibilities, my boss gave me a 7% bonus. It was unspoken, but I could tell he wanted me to take back on the director's responsibilities, all without the title, of course. But you know what? I continued to follow the manager description exactly as written. Fast forward 6 months later, and after taking 10 days of unlimited PTO, I was eventually included in the layoffs. I took 3 months off, and then I got another job at a 35% salary increase. While I am happy to be making more money, I truly love the company and the people that I worked with, and it's defeating to watch someone continually take credit for something that you worked incredibly hard for. Oh my gosh, that really pisses me off because my god, that is unbelievably toxic. Your boss literally admitted, hey, if you leave or if you get a promotion, then I can't take credit for your work, so let's not do that. And it's like, dude, are you serious? You're taking credit for my work? Stop it. Like that for me in my own personal life is one of my biggest pet peeves about working in an office setting. People above you have every opportunity to take your work for granted and then try to pass it off as their own, even though they themselves haven't done anything that you're doing. And I'm willing to bet they couldn't even do your job. And the crappy boss in this story is a perfect example of that. The second the original poster did their job description is pretty much exactly when all of this fell apart. And it's all because of the boss, not because of the original poster. The boss could have easily helped them climb the ladder and get a higher position, but instead they wanted to keep them down, and that is so nasty. So I love this revenge because seriously, this guy absolutely deserves it. I installed a lockbox for my cheese, and now my roommate is saying I'm creating division in the house. But despite the fact that she's the one that made me do this, as she is constantly eating my food, I'm now worried that I might have been overreacting by doing this. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I know this might sound insane, but please just hear me out. I'm a 24-year-old male, and I live with 2 roommates. One is a 29-year-old male, and the other one is a 28-year-old female. Now, one of them, namely the guy, is fine, whereas the other one is a fridge pirate with sticky fingers and zero shame. I don't even think she likes half the stuff that she steals, but just eats it because it's there. Well, the final straw was my cheese. My mother brings me cheese from my home country every time she visits, and no, I can't buy it here. I had it hidden behind the milk for safekeeping, but I opened the fridge yesterday and it was gone. She then said to me, oh, I didn't think it was a big deal. I mean, it is just cheese. But it's like, no, it's not just cheese. That cheese was the only joy I had left this week. So you know what? I snapped and I went into full chaos. I bought a small fridge lockbox, and yeah, it's a plastic safe that goes inside the fridge. There's a combo lock and everything on it, and I put my cheese, my fancy yogurt, my cold brew, and my chocolate in there. I then labeled it by saying unauthorized entry will be considered an act of war. Well, she saw it, and now she says I'm creating division in the house, and I'm being hostile and passive aggressive. But it's like, am I? Are you serious right now? Or is this what happens when you push a peaceful person to the brink over dairy? Because honestly, I'm about 3 bites away from putting AirTags into my hummus, because at this point, I don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster has an update that they would like to share. Here's what they had to say. Okay, I did not expect this to blow up like this because I am laughing so hard. I haven't even got the time to read all the comments. There's just way too many. However, my 2 big takeaways are people asking what the cheese was and people saying that the note is aggressive. Now, the cheese is Asadero cheese. It's Mexican cheese, and yes, if you look it up, you can probably buy it online, but it is not the same. The one that I like and get is from this small town 2 hours away from my hometown that has maybe 10,000 people in it. It just has its own unique taste and it makes sense to me. But also, the note is not aggressive, it's a joke. Like, I'm not actually gonna go to war, although it would be fun. Instead, I'm saying something like, hey, I'm locking my food away from you, but we're still cool. However, please stop stealing. Anyways, I'm pretty sure we've moved on from all of this, as she is buying me lunch tomorrow, and I'm not getting rid of my lockbox, nor am I getting a mini fridge for my room. Because you know what? I really like the idea of her seeing tasty stuff in my lockbox while still not being able to eat it. Okay, I've got to say I love this story because yeah, this absolutely is hilarious. For starters, you were completely in the right for saying no, no, I don't want anybody near my stuff, as well as putting your valuable food in a lockbox and saying, hey, I don't want anybody taking this. And for anyone who might be like, oh man, that's such an aggressive thing to do, you know what's more aggressive? Stealing someone's food and being like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. That's a level of annoying that I am not willing to put up with, and I don't know anybody who should. Like seriously, that is so uncalled for, it's not even funny. So I personally think it's hilarious that you're like, oh man, we're going to war if you actually take my stuff. Because obviously she gets it, and it seems like you guys have made up in some kind of way, which in my opinion is really great to hear. But also, it sent the message quite clearly that, hey, you can't eat my stuff anymore. And sometimes with roommates, especially ones that eat all your food, that might be all it takes just to get them to stop. So yeah, you're definitely not the jerk for what you did, and I don't think you overreacted by locking up your food, because from the sounds of it, it kinda needed to happen, and thankfully it kind of all worked out in the end. My entitled Karen of a friend absolutely ruined my trip to Puerto Rico, causing problems for me and my friends left and right, while also being completely unwilling to pay back me for any of the stuff that I bought. And honestly, I'm so glad that I cut her off, and I seriously hope I never have to deal with her ever again. Here's what happened. So for starters, this happened 5 years ago. My friend from college, we'll call her Sarah, got engaged and was getting married in Puerto Rico. She invited me and my two other college friends, let's call them Amy and Sherry. When they got engaged, Sherry went on a tangent about how he was a terrible guy, how he was not good enough for Sarah, and decided that she wasn't coming to the wedding and told Sarah as much. And trust me, it was a very bad fallout. Now, for some reference here, he is actually terrific. She was just jealous and some other things, but that's not really pertinent to the story. So Amy and I decided to travel without her and make a whole vacation out of the trip. We decided we wanted a relaxing vacation with an upscale hotel, daily visits to the beach, and we must have good food and pina coladas in our hands at all time. Sherry and Sarah had made up after a long talk, and Sherry wanted to join us. In fact, she wanted to derail our entire trip. Sherry didn't want the same vacation as Amy and I. She wanted a cheap Airbnb, adventurous excursions, and honestly, she was on a tight budget. I had just recovered from a terrible injury, and I was extremely limited with my mobility, so I couldn't hike or be on my feet for long periods of time. We tried compromising with hotels and activities, but she refused. So we decided that Amy and I would book the hotel that we wanted, and she got a disgusting Airbnb down the street. I put my card down for everything with the agreement that they would Venmo me later. And trust me when I say this was a massive mistake. I paid for the rental car, but Sherry apparently needed the car more than us so that she could do her activities in the first place, which really was fine. We just needed her to drop us off at the beach. Well, guess what happened? She left us stranded for hours, and when she did end up getting us, she wanted to smoke the herb in the car. And I'm like, no, you're driving and it's under my name. I am not gonna get penalized for that. She then started getting passive aggressive with me and Amy. Fast forward, and we went to see some caves for one day, which is an activity that we compromise on that I was physically capable of doing. I was driving and she was giving me directions, and she kept missing to tell me when to exit. She was very high, and she snapped at me, calling me stupid and that I was doing all of this on purpose. And when she did that, I just saw red. I told her to shut up and give me directions properly. She said that I wasn't allowed to talk to her like that, but I just said, well, now you know how it feels. And after that, it was really awkward for the rest of the trip. When we fly to our next location, the wedding destination, she becomes so much worse. I once again paid for the golf cart that we rented for the tiny island, which was highly recommended, by the way. The first night there, she's being a complete brat, so Amy and I escaped to get food and bring it back. I called up Sherry, and I said that I found a bodega across from the restaurant, and I asked what she wanted for the house stay. When I brought everything back, she said that I forgot items and started saying, where's the cheese? What am I gonna eat my eggs with? Where's my Coke? What am I going to drink my rum with? At that point, I had it, and I just straight up asked her what I did to receive such a negative attitude. But of course, she passive aggressively just played dumb. Then, after pushing her for answers, she started calling me names and belittling me, so I just walked out. We ended up not talking the rest of the trip, and I upgraded my flight so I didn't have to sit with her. And when it was finally time for her to pay me back, she of course was incredibly resistant. I started off by saying, you owe me $75 for the golf cart. But Sherry responded by saying, well, you owe me for gas, so really I only owe you $50. Now, because I didn't want to argue with this lady, I just said fine. But that's when Sherry decided to keep going. She said to me, but since I purposefully tried to not travel in the golf cart to avoid you being an absolute jerk, I should only have to pay you maybe $25. $5. Now, mind you, she was in the golf cart every single day, so what she was saying is just completely untrue. So I just snapped at her. I said to her, just keep your money. And trust me, some very choice words followed that sentence right after that. Eventually, she blocked me, so I lost it and I emailed her more choice words. I told her we are never going to be friends again and that nobody wanted her at the wedding, especially the mother of the bride and the groom in the first place. Amy and Sarah have cut ties with her completely, and none of us have spoken with her ever since. Now, I may have lost a friend, but the silver lining here is that I met my now husband at the wedding. So I made a trade by losing an awful person and gained this amazing person that is my husband. Wow, that lady is super entitled. Who goes on vacation just to act like that? Like she stepped off the plane and immediately had like a really bad attitude about everything. She wasn't willing to compromise on literally anything you guys wanted to do. And when it was time for her to pay you back, of course, this lady's like, I don't have to pay you. It's like, what are you talking about? You literally used all the services that I purchased. Of course you're gonna pay me back. So honestly, good for you for cutting this lady off because she sounds like an awful friend to begin with. And if the trade-off is that you find your husband and get rid of this weird lady, then in my opinion, you definitely came out on top. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my dad and stepmom that my brother does indeed come first before anyone else in the family? Here's what happened. So I have an older brother who is my favorite person. We share a mom but have different dads. My dad was his stepdad, but my brother and dad were not close. And when our mom passed away several years ago, my brother chose to finish high school at our grandparents' house and not live with dad and me. My dad remarried a year after my mom passed away, and my stepmom has a daughter who is 3 years younger than me, and then I have 2 half-siblings with them. My brother is a very big part of my life. I see him all the time. I go to his house whenever I can. I make sure I see him every Christmas no matter what else is going on. He's the family I will always prioritize, and he has always been great to me. If I could live with him easily, I would. My dad and stepmom don't like how much time I spend with my brother, but they also dislike that my brother buys stuff for me and doesn't ever get anything for the other kids here or even treats them like family. He has nothing to do with anyone else in the house. Things kind of bubbled up over Christmas when my stepsister was upset that I went to my brother's Christmas Eve and then her grandparents came over and I wasn't there and missed out on the family time. I was kind of glad to miss it, honestly. I'd rather be with my brother, and my dad is always such a pain when his in-laws are there because he wants me to call them grandma and grandpa. My dad and stepmom sat me down a couple days after Christmas and told me I need to stop putting my brother before everyone else because it comes across as him being first in my life instead of everyone else being equal. But I told them that he is first and he always will be, and I told them that nothing has changed for me. They said he shouldn't be my priority when it comes to siblings at least because I have 4 siblings altogether and not just one. I didn't argue with them after that and they were angry. I know my stepmom told my dad afterwards to just let me live with him to spare the other kids, but he said he couldn't do that or they'd never see me ever again. She then asked if that would be such a bad thing because clearly I don't care about them. Their disagreement led to me being told a few days later that I was behaving badly and that I shouldn't have said what I did. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, I'm really sorry that your mom passed away, but also that your dad got married literally 1 year after she passed away. Like, I don't know about you, but that is really quick. Like, here you are grieving the loss of your mother still even a year later, and your dad suddenly marries this other woman out of nowhere. And according to the original poster further in the comment section, she mentioned that they got married after 2 to 3 months of meeting, and that it was a super crazy time. But when it comes to your brother, I don't think there's anything wrong with prioritizing him in your life, because honestly, you have a very serious connection with him, and he's somebody that you want in your life. So there really is nothing wrong with you going to visit him and like spending time on Christmas Eve, because after all, it was a holiday and there's nothing wrong with doing that. Even if you did miss out on your step-siblings' grandmother and grandpa coming over, like you wanted to spend time with your brother on Christmas Eve, like there's nothing wrong with that. And also, I kind of noticed that all the complaints are coming from your dad's wife. Like, it doesn't seem like your dad's the one who's like instigating these conversations, but instead it's your stepmother who's like basically trying to kick you out of the house. Like, that is so messed up, it's not even funny. And I know if I was in your situation, situation, I would be devastated that somebody was having that conversation about me. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. Your stepmom and your dad are absolutely being jerks, and I don't think for a second there's anything wrong with you visiting your brother, especially since you have such a close connection. Am I the jerk for kicking my mother-in-law out of my house after she made some awful comments about my children? Here's what happened. For a little bit of an intro, my fiance and I have been engaged for a year and together for 5. My fiance is 27 years old and white, and I am 24 years old and I am black. And yes, before you ask, the races will be important later on. I have one child that is not his biologically, but that is still her daddy, and she calls him as such. He loves her like his own, and it's honestly been such a blessing and so endearing to watch. We also have a daughter together and a bundle of joy on the way. So over the Christmas stretch, while everyone was at home, me and my fiance decided to have a get-together at our home. Altogether, it was his 2 siblings, my 3 siblings, and his nephew, with both of my parents and his mother, making that 9 guests plus our family of 4. Our families love each other and get along wonderfully except for his mother. And this story pretty much just involves his mother. The family gets together on the 26th of December and is having a pretty good time, but my brother pulled me to the side and told me that my mother-in-law had made a couple racist comments towards him and my parents, and also started questioning why our people would get so offended by the N-word. I told him I'd handle it later, but I did not want to spoil the party. About an hour later, things have picked back up and my mother-in-law is playing with my oldest, and I hear her say, "Oh, don't you wish you had hair that wasn't some heavy braids?" And before I could get there, she said, "You look like your mommy, but you would be prettier if you had skin like daddy." Now, my oldest looks like me with pretty dark skin, while my youngest looks exactly like her father, and honestly doesn't even look mixed. When I heard these comments, I saw red. I took my kids and nephews up the playroom, and I came back down and I told my mother-in-law to get out of my house and never come back. Well, when my fiance heard the commotion and I told him what happened, he was livid that I kicked her out without much fight back from her. I apologized to both families, and they said it wasn't my fault and understood. We then continued to have a great time. Well, for the past week, my mother-in-law has been blasting me on every social media platform, saying that I'm a jerk and swearing about me and saying pretty much everything under the sun. My fiance has been completely on my side, and we sent her a message together about her not being able to see the children anymore, and she's blasted and calling me a horrible mother while also threatening me. My fiance's father and one brother are angry with me, but otherwise people are mostly on my side, or some of them are starting to think that I went a little bit overboard with everything. Now, I feel bad about my kids not seeing her anymore, especially with a new baby on the way. So am I the jerk for kicking her out? What should I do? I do not think you are the jerk in the slightest. Your mother-in-law was completely out of line. She made some nasty, horrible comments about your girls that they will probably remember forever. Like, you just don't make those kind of remarks and think you can just get away with it. If I was in your shoes, I absolutely would have done the exact same thing, because those racist comments have no business being in your home, and she absolutely needed to be kicked out. My boyfriend is refusing to work as he has been fired from most of his jobs, and as a result, I'm being forced to pay for everything. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. So I've been dating my boyfriend for almost 5 years. We lived together and we shared bills before. He had jobs off and on, and I constantly paid at least half and sometimes all the bills. Well, we broke up temporarily, and I moved out and got my own place. And about April of last year, he moved back in with me, promising to continually work. He had a job when he moved in, but got fired 6 days later. He then got so mad about being fired that he refused to work and left it all up to me for a while. About September, he got hired somewhere else and it went great, and I was so happy that he was working, but it lasted a month or a month and a half before he got fired again. He was paying bills and paying me back for bills in the past. He didn't want to get fired from this job, and I know he actually liked it and really did deserve to keep this one. But when they fired him, he refused to work again, even to this day. And even though I have told him multiple times that I'm struggling to pay all the bills and buy everything we need alone, he still just argues with me about it. He tells me that he just got fired and then gets angry with me for asking for his help. We have 2 kids and a few animals. My bills are more than I get paid in a month, and I have to buy all of our necessities and what they want. I have a couple credit cards that are way too high, and I'm just getting myself so deep in debt. And worst of all is that he knows this. My rent just went up at the beginning of the year. My internet bill tripled, and I recently purchased a car in September, thinking that he will be consistently working again, and then when he stopped, it kind of ruined me because now I don't have that extra money. He always wants to buy the herb so he can sit around high and play some video games, and then when I say something about a job, he gets angry. He tells me that it's my house. Why would I rent a house that I can't afford by myself? But he creates a lot of the bills too and doesn't help at all. He will get too hot when it's 20 degrees outside, and instead of stepping outside, he turns the heat off and turns the air on as cold as possible. So I have to heat the house, cool it off, and then have to heat it up all over again. He does this all the time and other stuff similar to this that costs me way too much money, and I'm really getting tired of him mooching off of me. The kids even go to daycare while I work, and I have to pay for that as well. So he's just sitting at home doing nothing, leaving me to work and do all the bills. I know that it sucks getting fired from a place that you like and you want to work, but he needs to be helping me. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, you are 100% correct. This guy is using you completely, and he is not doing anything to motivate himself to get a job. And here's the thing, the fact that he keeps getting fired is proof enough that this guy is volatile. He is 100% the reason that this all happened to him, and nobody else is to blame. So honestly, I hope you're able to get through to him, because I know if I was in your shoes, I would not want to live with someone like that who is blatantly taking advantage of my kindness. My brother, for several years in his marriage, has tried to force his two kids to call his new wife their actual mother, even though their real mother passed away when they were just children. And now, after so many years of trying to force this on these kids, his kids no longer talk to him, and he's left wondering and asking me why that's the case. So I decided to be honest with him and explain exactly where he messed up. But now he is very mad at me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my brother has two children from his marriage to his late wife, Denise. His son just turned 20 and his daughter is 18 years old. And Denise passed away when the children were 6 and 7 years old. 18 months later, my brother met Catherine, his second wife, and they married after 4 months of knowing each other. Catherine was unable to have biological children, and she always dreamed of being a mom and wanted to be a mom to my nephew and niece. And my brother wanted this for her as well. But the kids did not want to be Catherine's children. They did not want to call her mom or be adopted by her. They did not want her to be the sole focus on Mother's Day, and the list of resistance just goes on and on. My brother spent years trying to get the children to call Catherine mom, and he and Catherine applied for her to adopt the kids and were rejected by the judge after she spoke to the children about what they wanted. They tried again and were denied by a different judge before making it to court. Things were always tense with my brother and his children. It was also tense with the rest of the family because some of us spoke up and asked why he was pushing this on the children so much. He would say that Catherine deserved to be a mom and deserved the respect for being a loving and nurturing mother to the kids. Mother's Day from the first year that they were married until the last year was very toxic. My brother no longer allowed the kids to see their maternal relatives that day, and they also didn't see any of us or visit the grave. He said the day in their family was for Catherine. He would make her breakfast and give her cards and gifts from the kids, and then the kids would tell her that she didn't deserve to be celebrated for Mother's Day and that she was nobody's mother. My brother didn't like it, and Catherine would be upset at the reminder, and the kids would also be quick to inform Catherine that they never wrote in the cards because my brother always addressed them to mom, and the kids never called her that. In the last few months, my brother has lost contact with all of his children. The last time they spoke to their dad, the kids told him that he put Catherine's once before them, and they would never forgive him for that. They said that he has no right to make them be the children to fill the void for her when they already had a mom who they loved. My brother dismissed the idea entirely that he put Catherine before the kids like that, but when I saw him for New Year's at my parents' house, he was telling me about it, and I told him that his kids were right, and that he did put Catherine's needs way before his kids. I said he made her want to be a mother the most important thing, and tried to force the kids to comply and be her kids. But he told me that that is not what happened, and I should be sympathetic to him and to Catherine, who had her heart broken by the kids. So honestly, am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? Okay, so it really sounds like the original poster's brother is absolutely out of line, and it sounds like he's been out of line for the entirety of him being a father to these kids. Like, the kids made it very clear, this is not my real mom, and I don't want to be adopted by her or forced to call her mom in any kind of way. And with all things considered, I don't blame them for feeling that way. They were 6 and 7 years old when their real mom passed away. And then for the rest of their childhood, their dad made Mother's Day incredibly toxic and tried to fit their children into this mold of basically trying to make them be like, no, Catherine is your mom. That is so messed up in my opinion, and it completely ignores the children. It really disrespects their needs and wants, and if anything, after a while, it's just gonna put them off. I can understand you trying this once or twice, but for you to do this all the way until they're adults, every single year on Mother's Day, that in my opinion is so uncalled for. Because I think you just made needless drama for literally no reason other than you trying to appeal to Catherine, who is obviously a stranger in these kids' lives. And even with that in mind, I can understand why the judge would turn you down. And they turned you down twice, by the way. If that's not an obvious clue that this is not going to work out, then I just don't know what is. So to that end, I don't think the original poster is a jerk in the slightest. Your brother asked your opinion and you told him straight up that you've been focusing way more on Catherine's comfort than your kid's comfort at all. He seriously put his wife way ahead of his kids. And as a result, he basically made it so his kids are not wanting to talk with him ever again. And there's literally nobody to blame in that scenario except for himself. An entitled, angry customer claims that I'm the reason he's going to lose his job, while also demanding my personal cell phone number so he can call me over the weekend or whenever he wants when it comes to the progress on his insurance claim. And I'm honestly so exhausted with this guy, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I work as a claim adjuster for auto accidents, and a customer filed a complaint after hours, with me following up with him first thing this morning. I have no info on the vehicle other than what he reported, and I inform him there is a possibility of it being a total loss. Well, when I said that, he immediately jumps down my throat and tells me he doesn't want his car to be a total loss, and he doesn't want me to have it moved to another location for an in-person inspection. I start to discuss an alternative with him when he starts cussing at me and berating me, constantly interrupting me and just telling me to pay the claim. And trust me, if it were that easy of a job, I'd be paid less, and my job would be a heck of a lot easier. I explained that per his insurance agreement, we have to inspect the vehicle before I can make a payment for his claim, and we need to see if it's going to be a total loss or repairable. He continues to be a jerk, so I inform him that I will disconnect the call and try talking to him again when he has regained his composure. I hang up and I go into a meeting, and he proceeds to call our customer service line over and over again. He screamed at a total of 4 women and refused to end the call until I accepted his call. I explained I was in a meeting and explained that I wouldn't be out for at least 30 minutes or so. He continued to stay on the line with them for a few more minutes before hanging up and calling customer service again. Now, I finally have a chance to call him back, and I explained that we can try to work with his shop and having them submit photos so we can do a preliminary check to at least see if the car is a total loss or not. He then tells me he sent me photos from the night before, and I explained that there are no attachments to the emails he sent me, and that we need very specific photos to have the most accurate review. He proceeds to tell me that it's my job to call the shop and request them, which is what I told him at the start of the call anyways. He then does something that honestly really blows my mind. He demands to know my cell phone number. I explained that I don't have a work cell phone, but he states he wants my cell phone to be able to reach me over the weekend. I informed him that I will not be providing that information to him, but he didn't listen, with him demanding it a few more times before stating that he wanted to talk to my supervisor. I stated that she was already informed of the situation and would be reaching out to him when she was able to. I'm not allowed to give out her contact information, but he tells me that I need to have her call him immediately. I then remind him that she is my supervisor and I cannot dictate her schedule. He then proceeds to try and keep me on the phone until his demands are met, but I inform him that I'm going to disconnect the call if there's nothing further to discuss, and eventually he's the one that ends the call. I called the shop and they also gave me an attitude, stating that I was keeping a good man from his job and that I shouldn't be wasting his time like this. I asked if they could email the photos to me just so that I can get it done, and they say that they will do that. I have an uncommon last name, so I made sure to spell it out to them multiple times since it is part of my email address. 2 hours before I leave for the day, I still don't have any photos. So I text the customer and I let him know, and he told me that he would call them. 5 minutes before I'm supposed to leave, I call the shop again and I don't get an answer or an option to leave a message. I text the customer to let him know that photos aren't received yet and we won't be able to move forward on his claim until Monday morning. Well, he starts blaming me for working in a different time zone, stating that it isn't fair that I work 3 hours ahead of him. I explained that I don't work 3 hours ahead of of him. I'm just 1 hour ahead. Plus, the shop had all day to send me the photos that I needed. He states that since he doesn't have a rental car, which is something that he didn't purchase the coverage for, he is supposedly going to get fired on Monday, and it's all my fault. I offer to set him up with a discounted rental, and he tells me he doesn't have a rental company in his area, but it's still my fault for him losing his job. And it's kind of like, good gracious, I'm so sorry to hear that. You mean to tell me that your employer is so heartless as to fire you for missing a workday unexpectedly when it's your first occurrence or infraction with them? I mean, seriously, they might want to contact their state Department of Labor then. He then tells me that I should just pay the claim, and that I'm holding up his claim for no reason, just to make life difficult for him. And this honestly makes me wonder what he thinks happens to adjusters who don't follow due diligence on a claim and just end up paying it. Well, we don't get cookies, that's for sure. In fact, we face termination with our employer, as well as fines with the state the claim was made in, as well as possible jail time. Oh yeah, don't forget that our employer can sue us for the money we paid to the customer without authorization. And if the customer knowingly cashes the check when they know their claim wasn't supposed to have been paid out, they get reported to the federal government for insurance fraud and sued by the insurance company for repayment of the claim. So I guess I'll see what he says on Monday. My supervisor has been reading my notes and keeping up to date with the claim, and she's going to have a very fun conversation with him, especially when all the calls exhibiting his bad behavior were definitely recorded. Wow, that guy sounds like an absolute psychopath. Like seriously, dude, just send the photos in. This is not the adjuster's fault. They didn't do anything wrong. They're literally doing their job, and they're trying to make sure everything's like in line. And the original poster's correct. If they do this wrong, they could go to jail. Like clearly this guy doesn't care about that, but like I'm sure the original poster does. I'm sure they want to stay far away from jail just like anybody else. So seriously, good for the original poster for like handling this as good as they can. And hopefully come Monday morning, this guy has a better attitude and you're able to get some pictures and then move forward with his claim. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled Karen touring my college blocks my way and corners me, trying to force me to answer questions about my school. And despite telling her that I'm not a tour guide for my school, she simply would not take no for an answer and just kept going. And I'm honestly just so blown away by some people's entitlement. Here's what happened. So I go to a college in Boston, and there are constant tour guides here, and lots of people around campus that are not students. People are usually polite and ask where something is, which I'm happy to help them. However, I am not your tour guide. And I would also like to preface this by saying the school I go to isn't a big preppy school. People here are constantly leaving and coming back for co-op and study abroad and stuff like that. It's much more independent, and it's just not the kind of school where it's appropriate to corner students. Anyways, the other day I had just left my apartment to go grocery shopping, so it's important to keep in mind that I'm carrying a bunch of reusable grocery bags, so it is pretty obvious I'm going somewhere. I'm walking and I see a woman and her daughter standing and talking, and as soon as I begin to walk past, this woman steps in front of me, cutting off my ability to walk. She asked if I'm a student, and I said yes, and she immediately starts throwing me questions. And at this point, I am visibly uncomfortable, and this poor woman's child looks humiliated. At one point I said, I'm not a tour guide, I'm sure they can answer all these questions. And this woman replies that tour guides don't give honest answers, and she wants a real student's perspective. This goes on for like 15 minutes. She asks me a question, I give a short answer, and say that there's people she can ask in the student center and that I'm busy. This woman then said, excuse me, you can take a few minutes to help out a prospective student. But actually, some of us are busy or simply don't want to be bombarded with questions. I finally started to walk away, and this woman steps in front of me to block me so she can keep on talking. I finally just said that there are people that she can talk to. I didn't sign up to be a tour guide, and I have somewhere to be. Please let me go by. She gets angry and calls me rude and says I should be more welcoming of prospective students and that I should be happy that people want to learn about the school. Like, yes, please do learn. It's just not my job to tell you about anything. I just push past the woman as she continues yelling and trying to block me, and I could still hear her ranting until I turned the corner. I mean, some parents are so entitled. So honestly, just because somebody's a student somewhere does not mean they're obligated to be your tour guide. Yeah, that entitled mom was completely out of line. Like, it's pretty obvious after like what, the first 2 minutes that you're not available for questions, but instead of letting you go and going to somebody else or like the student center, she literally blocks your way and says, no, you're gonna help me. It's like she really thinks you're somehow loyal to the school, and you simply existing at this school means that you have to welcome this other student that you don't even know. Like, that's a really rude thing to do, especially trying to like corner someone and prevent them from leaving. Like, you can't do that to somebody and expect them to comply. Like, that is really strange in my opinion, and I know if I was in your shoes, I would be incredibly frustrated as well. Am I the jerk for not inviting my sister-in-law's in-laws to my kid's birthday party? Here's what happened. So my kid was born on the 31st of December 7 years ago, and each year we celebrate by having a family lunch at our house with my husband's family, since mine is in a different country. My sister-in-law got married 3 months ago and had a celebration lunch 2 weeks after. There, we met her new in-laws, but we never connected or exchanged more than a hello, how are you, goodbye, stuff like that. So they are practically strangers. They didn't interact at all with my kid. Now comes my kid's birthday, and my sister-in-law says that her in-laws will be in town, so they would come to the birthday lunch as well. And honestly, I didn't feel like having strangers in the house for that special day, and my kid also did not want them around, so I told my sister-in-law that she and her husband are welcome to come, but her in-laws can find something else to do for 3 hours. So here's what my sister-in-law decided to do. She came and brought over her son, left him for the day to spend time and play with my kid. Then she said to her mom and her brother, not my husband, to join her husband, and her in-laws for a morning coffee. The morning coffee turned into lunch, which turned into no one showing up for my kid. Around 5 o'clock p.m., I tell my husband to call her and tell her to come and pick up her kid because I was done babysitting him. She ends up coming alone and sees we didn't cut the cake, so she says that we should sing and cut the cake, but my kid didn't want to. She wanted to leave it for later to do it just with her dad and me. The sister-in-law kept at it, and her son said he wants to try the cake, so reluctantly we sang happy birthday and we cut it. They had a slice and then they left, and I also gave them a piece of cake to take with them for the in-laws. My husband and I decided to do at least something special for the day, mostly because my girl was really sad, so we went bowling for the first time for my kid. While in the car, my brother-in-law sent me a message saying that after the outing he had, he was sleepy and went to bed, and now he is up and wants to come over and give the gift to my kid. But I tell him that we're not home. While we are bowling, my mother-in-law calls my husband, and it's around 7 o'clock p.m. at this point, and she says that she wants to pass by to give my husband a sweet that she had prepared. At this point, I blow up, and I tell my husband that no one is welcomed anymore. We're gonna go home and rest so that we can be up for the New Year's fireworks. Now, as a long story short, because I didn't invite the in-laws of my sister-in-law to come to my kid's birthday party, no one ended up showing up. And the cherry on the cake is that I've been told that I'm a jerk for making my sister-in-law literally choose between my kid and her in-laws, or for not celebrating the birthday on another day. So honestly, who's the jerk here? Also, for the past 4 days, my sister-in-law keeps on asking to meet up, which I gently refuse because I'm not ready to see her yet. What should I do? Honestly, it really seems like the sister-in-law threw a wrench in your plans and had this lunch just to try and get back at you for not inviting her in-laws. So no, in my opinion, you're definitely not the jerk, and if anybody's the jerk here, it is definitely your sister-in-law. My entitled neighbor never shows any gratitude for the work that me and my neighbors do to try and clear out all the snow on the street that we live on. And after she claimed that there's no point in doing it in the first place, I decided to get some petty revenge. And as a result, none of the neighbors have even bothered to dig out her car from all the snow, with the end result of her car being surrounded in an igloo of ice. Here's what happened. So where I live, which is outside the United States, we get snow in the wintertime, and I have a bad back and shoulders, so I bought a snowblower to avoid all the manual shoveling. I live in a 4-family house and we park our cars on a public street. When the snowplow clears the street, it leaves a good snowdrift on the sides of the street towards all the parked cars, and we go out shoveling it away so that we can get our cars in and out. Well, most of us do, but not all, especially one of my neighbors that can't be bothered to do it in the slightest. She gets her car out from that spot and drives over the snowdrift, and when she comes back, she conveniently parks in a spot that's cleared by me and my machine, or my neighbors with a shovel. Last week, she tried to wiggle her car from the spot and over the snowdrift, and I stood watching her from inside for about 15 minutes before she got her car out. The snow made it hard for her, and it doesn't help that she can't drive. Last year, when I was outside cleaning the snow, she came out and started her car, but she couldn't get it out of the snow. So I told her to step out, and then I reversed her car out from that spot for her, and then I cleared the snow where she was parked. I mean, I do enjoy being helpful towards my neighbors. She watched me doing the job, but asked me later why I bothered clearing snow on the public street where we have absolutely no assigned parking spots. Well, I said that I like getting my car out, and if no one's taken the spot when I get back, I like to park it without the problems that the snow obviously creates. It's easier and way more convenient when it's cleared. During the winter last year, she started parking in cleared spots and didn't lift the shovel to clear any snow one single time. Now, I wasn't out there to do it every single day, and my other neighbors did it when I did not. But for her, she did not even help a single time. Well, this week we had a massive snowfall, and we've had about 3 feet of snow in 3 days. So clearing the street and walkway to the house has been essential, but according to my entitled neighbor, why should I even bother to do it? Well, like stated above, I like getting my car out, and I enjoy helping my other neighbors. But this year, I haven't done a single thing at all to help her out. She does nothing to our community, and there's a limit on how helpful you want to be when you get nothing in return. My other neighbors and I have cleared everything except around her car, and now it looks like a good old-fashioned igloo. She definitely has some digging ahead of her if she even wants to open the doors in the morning. Oh, and the best part about it is that we have a cold front coming, and the forecast says that it's gonna be -4 degrees Fahrenheit the upcoming days, and that will make all the hard-packed snow literally into ice. And honestly, with all things considered, that is definitely gonna be her problem and not mine. Honestly, I don't think you're the jerk in this scenario, and I probably would have done the exact same thing. Like, here's the thing, in a neighborhood and a community, you try to help each other out so everybody is built up and everybody benefits. But when there's one bad apple who's just like, wow, why do you even bother? There's no point in doing this. But in reality, it's like, are you kidding me right now? The point of doing that is to help out your neighbor and your community. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, but to be so lackadaisical as if it's not important, especially when this lady is benefiting from everybody's goodwill, like seriously, that is so weird to me. So you know what? If she really thinks there's no point, then she can enjoy digging her car literally out of an igloo. Because I'm pretty sure come Monday morning, she is definitely going to wish she had somebody to try and help her out of the snow. My girlfriend's parents are acting as our landlords after I helped them build the apartment that we're currently living in. And right now they're treating me and my girlfriend like absolute garbage, and at this point we seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, we agreed with her parents that a flat would be built at the side of their house as they wanted a long-term investment for when they were old. The flat is connected to the main house, and we share the same electricity and the same internet. Her father is a builder and built the apartment with my help. He paid for the materials to build it. However, as I am a painter, I painted the whole place for free and also furnished it all with my partner. I even had to buy 40 meters of internet cable and a router just to get some internet. We moved in just before Halloween of last year, and they have made our lives a living nightmare. We own a small dog who is very well behaved, and when we both go to work, my girlfriend's mother, who offered to feed him in our absence, goes into our apartment to let out the dog to use the bathroom and to get some food. Well, she has OCD and she doesn't work. Her house is always unrealistically clean, and they own a bigger house, so it is easier to have it spotless as there is more space to put things. And we rarely clean our flat regularly, so it's a good standard for us to stay in as well as for her to go into it. However, that never seems to be the case. Her mother will actively look for problems, such as if the floor hasn't been hoovered in a day, or if there's some dust around the coffee table. We both work and we can't get up in the mornings and bleach the floors and do a deep clean as she wants us to do. Our dog didn't have an accident in the house in over 2 weeks, yet she came in and said that she could smell dog droppings all over the place, which obviously is not true. She genuinely looks for flaws in the house to use against us for a fight, and her husband will agree and defend her regardless, even if it's right or wrong. They constantly let us know that it is their place and that it's not ours, despite us paying for rent, gas, and electric, and so on. I started to receive messages on my WhatsApp from her mother complaining about the dog droppings, which we leave in a little pathway overnight as he needs to go to the toilet at 2 to 4 in the morning, but we pick it up every single morning. Now, I wouldn't mind, but the messages are very sly and it's hypocritical because they own dogs themselves and they leave dog droppings in the garden for days and out in front of the house. I mean, I even stepped in it one day. Yesterday, though, was the final straw for me. I came home from work and I went into their house for a shower as they still have not provided us with a shower despite their many promises, and her mother tried to ignore me and just make me uncomfortable. I asked her if everything was okay and she just started nagging at me, saying that I lack respect because I didn't have the house absolutely spotless at all times. And by the way, the house is rarely dirty. I had to bite my tongue despite really wanting to say something to her. They speak about respect, but talk to their daughter like garbage at times. And when they are struggling for money over Christmas, we paid our rent early so they could get by. We also buy them gifts and stuff in the shops when they need it as well. And we also lend out our cars if needed. Look, I'm a reasonable guy, and I can look at my own flaws and break my own ego if needed. But I really feel as though they are acting out of line and they really need an ego check. It is not fair and it isn't letting me live my life comfortably. I mean, I can't leave this house without it being immaculate as if it's some kind of like showroom floor. I'm honestly at my wit's end and I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, these parents are absolutely obnoxious. First and foremost, I think the way they're treating you is really unkind and it's just super obnoxious. Like the mom's coming into your apartment and she's like, wow, this place is not spotless. It's like, no kidding, lady, I'm at work. Are you serious? She really is trying to like cherry pick issues just to have like some kind of argument with you. And that, in my opinion, is so annoying. Like that is seriously so uncalled for and nobody deserves to get treated that way. It's also really weird to me that they would have you do all this work just to make sure this apartment is up and running, not to mention all the free labor as a painter, as well as you furnishing this place and getting what, 40 meters of internet cable just so you can have some kind of internet. And then with all that in mind, they're gonna turn this around and be like, oh, by the way, this isn't your place, it's ours. And it's like they almost have selective memory considering all the stuff you literally just did for them. That's really obnoxious, and in my opinion, if I was in your shoes and I had them treating me like this, I would be looking for a new place to live almost immediately, because I seriously don't think you deserve to get treated like that in the slightest. An entitled Karen gets really angry and aggressive when I refuse to get out of her way when getting off of a plane. Things got so bad that she even eventually ended up pushing me just to get me out of the way. And I've honestly never been more astonished by somebody's behavior in my life. Here's what happened. I'm convinced that there is nothing worse than a mother at an airport. Coming back from Cuba, I noticed this family right away at the Vanderoo airport because they were loud and the mother had a perma scowl on her face, which is probably why she looked like she was in her late 60s rather than her mid 40s, which is probably a more accurate age. Getting on the plane, they were pushing everyone in line as they tried to move forward because, you know, the plane with the assigned seating will definitely leave without them if they don't get on first. The mother in question was sitting in the row behind me but across the aisle. At one point, I could feel someone staring at me, so I looked back and she was blatantly staring at me with the most disgusted look on her face. Probably because of my tattoos, honestly. I mean, she seemed like the type, but I just thought to myself, whatever. Then we get off the plane and she tried to push past me instead of waiting her turn, but of course I didn't let her because it's plane etiquette. Then as we're going through the hall towards customs, she's running down the hall, an angry face firmly in place and telling her kids to hurry up. I mean, it's not like we're all going to the same place, Karen. Of course, I get through customs before her and I'm the first one at the baggage claim because I planned ahead and I travel frequently. So I'm standing right at the part of the baggage carousel where the bags start to come out and suddenly I'm pushed aside. And guess what? It's this entitled Karen. But regardless, I try to hold my tongue. The bag starts coming out and one gets stuck, so I go to put it back on the carousel to help out the owner. And that's when I hear the loudest, rudest voice in the world. This Karen screeches, "Excuse me." She says this behind me, and then she pushes me aside again to grab her kid's bag. Now, because the carousel isn't huge, she just had to stand as close to me as possible. And when she did that, that is when I snapped. I just looked at her and I said, "Wow, lady." Then she starts yapping at me like an annoying little dog, saying how she is helping her kids and she was being polite. I just retorted that she clearly hates her life, and she is obviously the type of person who screams at customer service employees. She keeps going and she's slowly giving me a headache. But you know what? It is simply not worth my time. So I said to her, "Honey, you need to shut your mouth right now." And trust me, when I said that, she did not like that one bit. She liked it even less when I started laughing at her. I could tell she is definitely a jerk and has never really been called out on her behavior ever in her life. My bag eventually came before the rest of her stupid bags, and I ended up leaving her there, yapping like the annoying creature that she is. The best part is that neither her husband nor her teenage children stood up for her. In fact, her husband looked exhausted by her behavior. So parents, please, if traveling causes you to be rude and annoying, just don't do it. Stay at home instead and leave the rest of us in peace. Yeah, that's honestly really funny to me because this lady hit all of the entitled marks to basically make her a really terrible person to be around. For starters, she was trying to get off the plane before people ahead of her. Like, I don't know about about you, but that really is common courtesy to literally just wait your turn and wait for people ahead of you to go down the aisle. I don't even mind if someone like stands up, because some people like they can't really sit for long periods of time, so they have to stand up to like stretch their legs and not be cramped. Like, I totally get that. But if you're physically pushing people out of the way just to get your bag or get off the airplane, then you, my friend, are a horrible person. But I really love how the original poster handled this. They basically called her out on her garbage and made her look like a complete idiot. And I think the original poster is right. They probably have never been called out before like that, which is why she was left floundering, not sure what to do. And honestly, people like that really should be called out a lot more, especially if they're going to get up in other people's faces and cause problems for people around them. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to beg for an invite to my stepsister's wedding? Here's what happened. So my stepsister's dad married my mom when we were 7 and 6. I never knew my parents together, and from what I was made aware of, they had made a very brief relationship and I was the result. I have a sister from a dad who is 3 years older than me, but no siblings on my mom's side. My parents shared custody of me during my childhood, but I always preferred my dad's house. I was always closer to my dad than my mom, and I always loved being around my sister. My stepsister used to adore me and think that we were sisters and best friends forever. She had no siblings, so to her, I was that sibling. We were about 14 and 15 when she found out I didn't feel the same way about her. She read my homework one night, and I had to write up a personal piece from a topic of choices. And the choices were basically different family members and relationship types, and I just went with siblings. She was really upset after learning I didn't consider her one of my siblings and never even did. She stopped being so into me after that, which really wasn't a big deal to me. She did grow up to be more resentful of me when we were in our early 20s because I moved into an apartment with my sister, which she learned about from my mom. The few times that I saw her after that, she was always very snarky when asking if I liked having a sister that much, and how nice it must be to be loved back. Well, my stepsister is now getting married, and she didn't even send me an invite. It upset my mom and her husband a lot, and they asked why, and she told me that I'm not her sister. She stated that she just doesn't care about me, and that I would not even want to be there in the first place. Well, my mom chimed in and said that I should ask her to invite me and even beg if I have to. She told me that otherwise it will look so awful as if we're not even family. And when my mom requested this, I just refused. My mom said that I should be upset to miss out on her big day, and I clearly told her that I did not care. My mom said that I should, and I should be willing to do this for her if nothing else. So I need to know, am I the jerk for not begging my stepsister to invite me to her wedding? Honestly, this is kind of like cut and dry, because it seems like the two of you established this relationship a long time ago. For starters, you secretly never even liked her as a sibling in the first place, and you know what, at least you had the decency of keeping that to yourself and not expressing that to her. But also, it really seems like this deeply affected her, and she took this incredibly personally, which I can completely understand. So it kind of makes sense as to why she wouldn't invite you to the wedding. There does seem to be a rift between the two of you, and it does seem like she just doesn't want you there. So I don't think you're the jerk for not wanting to go to this wedding and not wanting to like beg your stepsister to allow you to go, because it really seems like the both of you just don't want each other there. And I think at the very least, this is something that you both can seriously agree on. Because just think about the opposite end of this, like seriously. If you went up to her and suddenly, after years of just not really liking each other, said to her, "Oh please, let me be a part of your wedding," or something like that, in my opinion, I think that would be way worse than just accepting it and being like, okay, I'm just not going to be at this wedding, I guess. But I do have to say that it really is sad that your stepsister held on to this weird petty grudge for such a long time. According to the original poster, they further explained that they never hated them and they never like bullied them or anything like that. They simply did not feel the same way that their stepsister felt about them, and that's honestly like where it began and ended. It doesn't seem like there's some like deep-seated hatred from the original poster, but instead it really seems like it's being harbored by the stepsister in this situation. But in my opinion, I think it's very important to respect her wishes, and if that means you're not going to show up to her wedding, then so be it. My stepmother triggered my food allergy seemingly on purpose, and now when I try to discuss it with her and try and go over what was in the food that she made, she is now refusing to talk to me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context to start things out, I'm a 24-year-old female and I still live with my stepmom while working and going to school. Yesterday, I went to help a friend move out of his house, and I left the the house in a rush. I went to tell my stepmom that I was leaving and I was running late, and she seemed to be upset that I didn't say good morning before telling her I was leaving. I told her I was sorry and that I was in a bit of a hurry and I would be seeing her later. I got home at around 4 o'clock, and sometimes when I'm out all day, she'll ask if I've eaten anything so she knows if she needs to cook an extra portion. Well, she was still in a bad mood when I got home, but I figured that she just had a bad day, so I said hello. Then I went to my room and I took a nap. When I came to get dinner a few hours later, she was already in her room, so I just served myself and I went back to my room. What she failed to mention though was that something in the stew I ate had something I was allergic to. After throwing up, I texted her to ask her what was in the stew, mostly so I could know if I need to take a Benadryl or if I just need to sleep it off. Now, my reaction wasn't too severe, so I didn't really need my EpiPen. Well, she just leaves me on red. I drink some warm tea to open up my throat and then I go back to bed. This morning, I go to greet her and I ask her again what was in the stew, but she just stays silent. I ask if something is wrong and she starts imitating my body posture in a mocking way, still not saying anything. I ask her what the problem is and she just rolls her eyes and turns away from me. So I get my stuff and I leave. Now, here's the thing. My stepmom is very cognizant of my allergies, and sometimes she'll make a whole separate dish for me when she's eating something that I can't. I try to show my appreciation for her since she's a stay-at-home mom, and it's really helpful when I'm working and going to school to not have to worry about food. I'm trying not to make any crazy assumptions, but I am very upset that this has happened, and I now seriously don't know what to do. Okay, so this is a seriously scary situation, because based on what you've described, it kinda seems like your stepmom did that on purpose. And if that's the case, I personally would not feel safe to live there any longer if I was in your shoes. Because her history basically points to her being more aware of your allergies, as well as her trying to take like deliberate steps just so you don't get sick from what she's eating. So when you ask her, hey, what's going on? What did you put in the stew? And she's just sitting there doing nothing about it and not responding in any kind of way, that in my opinion is a massive red flag, and that is seriously unsafe. Like, it really seems from the outside looking in that she straight up tried to poison you. And that, in my opinion, would be more than enough reason for me to start calling friends and start asking whose couch I can sleep on until I find a place to live. Because what she did is unacceptable. And in my opinion, it really seems like she did that on purpose. My grandfather's entitled children tried to hide the fact that he passed away in the hospital and also tried to secretly hold a funeral just so that my grandmother and the rest of my family could be left out of my grandfather's funeral. And I'm honestly blown away by someone's entitlement as well as how evil somebody truly can be. Here's what happened. Okay, so my grandfather passed away when I was just a baby. When I was older, my nana married a new man, a widower who I called Grandpa Walt. He was the only maternal grandfather that I knew, so I considered him my family. I didn't know this during the decade that I knew him, but his children from his previous marriage did not feel the same about my nana. They did not believe in remarriage and considered her the most evil person in history for tempting their father from his vows to their deceased mother. They refused to see him in the home that my nana owned, so that when he got older and had difficulty leaving the house on his own, they mostly just stopped seeing him for years. He had never mentioned his kids, so I knew nothing about them. Eventually, he started getting bad enough that prolonged hospital stays were getting more frequent, and he needed to be in and out of full-time care. Whenever he was in the hospital, she would visit him until he could return home. They had been snowbirds, spending winters in Florida and summers in Michigan, but because of his health, they had not been able to go to their Florida home in many years. They decided that she would go down for a week or two to make sure the home was okay and start the process of selling it before its value dropped from lack of maintenance, while he was safely in full-time care with staff they had known and trusted for years. Then they could use the money from the sale for his care. I went to visit him the day after he left to make sure he was doing okay. His son and daughter were there, and it was the first time I had ever seen them. I had barely even been aware of their existence, but I figured out who they were from their context. I said hello and I tried to introduce myself, and they pretended as though I was invisible and that they hadn't heard anything I said. They were literally acting like children, so I just sat awkwardly in a chair. They proceeded to stand there for over an hour, talking right in front of me to Grandpa Walt about how evil my nana was, that she would abandon him in some dirty hospital and run off spending all of his money partying in Florida, and how they hoped he would remember that when it came to his will. It should be noted that my nana, while by no means wealthy, had a lot more money than he did, and all of their property was hers from decades before she even met him. She was also an elderly woman with a hip replacement who had to use a walker, and this is the kind with yellow tennis balls on the legs, so she was in no condition to be partying in Miami or whatever they thought she was doing. Well, he never once responded. He just stared straight ahead with glazed over eyes. I wasn't sure if he even heard anything they said. He was not looking very well, but I knew he always had his ups and downs, so I didn't imagine anything was unusual. But I was flabbergasted. Looking back, I wish I had spoken up, but I was a teenager at the time in a hospital room full of sick and dying people, and I didn't know how to fight back without causing a huge scene. Eventually, I just took a brief pause in their rant to stand up and tell Grandpa Walt that I had to go, and that we all loved him and his wife would be home soon after she took care of the house issues. The entitled son and daughter spoke to me for the first time, telling me that I didn't need to come back because they would be there for him and I was not his family. I then rushed to my parents' house and I told them what happened, and they filled me in on their issues. And it seemed like even if they seemed awful, I knew it wasn't my place to try and keep them from their father. So I stayed away, and I gave them time to catch up and hope that when I wasn't there, they could just catch up and figure out their relationship. Well, a few days later, my Nana got a very strange call from the hospital. A nurse that she knew very well from Grandpa Walt's hospital called her up and asked her how she was. Well, my Nana was fine. The nurse then awkwardly asked her, "Well, do you know?" My Nana asked, "No what?" And then the woman broke down. Grandpa Walt had passed away nearly 24 hours ago. His son and daughter had forbidden the hospital from contacting my Nana and said that they would let everyone know about the funeral arrangements. I have no idea what weird loophole caused higher-ups of the hospital to follow along with this, but his nurse sensed something was up and took a risk calling to make sure that my Nana knew. So it was equally as devastating to find out that she did not. I mean, none of us did. They were attempting to hide his passing and hurried up to hold a funeral before any of us found out. The nurse let us know where and when the funeral was taking place, and my Nana called all of us on the way to the airport to let us know. We started the phone tree to our whole family, and soon after she was back and we were all on our way to the funeral. The look of rage and disgust we got when we walked into my own grandfather's funeral, especially what my Nana got for walking into her own husband's funeral, was terrifying. They glared angrily, and you could see that they wanted to scream and throw us out, but decided not to cause a scene. Instead, his daughter walked up and grabbed a fruit basket off the table. She announced that she was putting it in her car, and if any of her guests wanted fruit, they could ask her and she would go to get it in the car, because she didn't want just anyone eating her fruit. The son and daughter gave speeches about how their father was finally in heaven, back with his one true love, their mother, and finally free from those who tried to tear their love apart. The staff of the funeral home eventually clued into the weird dynamic and found a way to put my Nana's car in the front of the procession when neither of Grandpa Walt's kids were looking, just to give her a brief moment of respect. She was ticked off, but there was nothing that she could do. These people thought their own opinions on the definition of "till death do us part" entitled them to hide my Nana's husband's passing from her, hold their own funeral, and surely they spent days pressuring their father to cut her out of his will. And I wish I could have seen their faces when they found out that none of the property they were salivating over was even owned by him. It was a terrible, painful day for her to have to fight her way into her own husband's funeral. I was very sad, but I could not help but laugh at the fruit basket thing. It just came out automatically. It was the saddest, most petty, most evil, pathetic power grab I've ever seen in my life. Wow, these people seriously are some of the worst people on planet Earth. Like, I can't imagine someone being so evil that they would try to deny their father's wife, even though it's not his original wife, the opportunity to go to his funeral and grieve his passing. Like, seriously, you have to be so unbelievably twisted to pull that off, all under the guise of you being like justified for it. Which, by the way, their justification for the way they treated this Nana is completely uncalled for. People get remarried when their spouse passes away all the time. Like, this literally happens all the time and there's no conflict. I personally find no conflict with that, and anyone who does and then openly is combative with that person for the rest of their father's existence, in my opinion, is one of the worst types of people on planet Earth. Because this behavior didn't need to happen. They could have just let this guy live his life in peace and not try to attack their father's new wife in some kind of weird way. So what they did is so unacceptable, and I seriously hope for the sake of you and the rest of your family, you all never have to to deal with that side of your family ever again. My boyfriend gave me a marriage ultimatum, stating that I only have the weekend to figure out if I want to marry him. And right now, I am stuck feeling unsure of everything, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So, to start things out, on Friday, my boyfriend asked me to deeply consider marriage over the weekend, and that I have until Monday to give him my answer. Now, here's the thing. We've been dating for over a year. He needs to marry for immigration and religious reasons. He's been living here for almost 10 years and is supposed to have an upcoming court case this year regarding his immigration status. Also, according to his religion, dating is not allowed. He told me he needs to make this next step in his life and that he has to do better in practicing his faith. Now, he is broke and he has a poor credit score. In his religion, the man is responsible for his wife, so I'm just wondering how I would be taken care of if this is his current situation. I don't feel comfortable getting married if we're going to be struggling financially right from the get-go. I would like to at least have a plan in place, but he thinks that is something that we can worry about later on. Yesterday, I went to talk to a priest, and he said me and my boyfriend can set up a meeting to discuss marriage. My boyfriend would like to have a religious ceremony from his faith, so I feel it's only fair to have one from mine as well. I called my boyfriend to tell him about making an appointment, and he refused. He said Monday is the deadline, and I thought he meant as in give him an answer and start planning, but no, he means Monday as in go to the courthouse and get married that day. He also told me this past year that we've been dating that he's gotten many opportunities from women that are interested in marrying him. He said he declined or ignored all of them because he wants to be with me. Now, I don't know if this is true or if he's trying to make me jealous, but I ended up talking to my mom about it, and she said she feels he is brainwashing me and that I should not be pressured into this. She suggested not to make any big decisions right now. This all just doesn't feel right. Is this manipulation on his part? I mean, how do I move forward? What should I do? Let me tell you something. If I had a giant red flag that I could start waving around like crazy, I would do that literally right now, because what your boyfriend is doing is insane in my opinion. He's demanding that you get married on Monday to him right then and there at the courthouse. And it does seem like he's putting the pressure on you and trying to guilt trip you into doing this. I mean, I'm right there with the original poster. I kind of thought, just like the original poster, that she had until Monday to decide to get married and then they would start planning out their marriage. But no, this guy's like, we're gonna get married on Monday and we're gonna go to the courthouse, while also implying that there's other women he could go to if she doesn't want to do it. But that just seems like a lie, because he's like, oh yeah, there's all kinds of other women that will marry me. Like, what are you talking about? Is he dating other people behind your back? If that's the case, then he's probably cheating on you or something like that. Like, that just seems like a really outlandish statement that's not completely true. And it's also really concerning about how much pressure he's putting on you to get married right now. Like, there's no time to think about this or figure out the situation. He's like really trying to be like, no, come Monday morning, we're going to the courthouse and getting married. That, in my opinion, is super sketchy. And I know if I was in your shoes, there is no way I would get married right away, all because somebody is demanding it, seemingly just so they can make some kind of step in their immigration status. Because at the end of the day, I seriously think these two are connected, and I just don't think it's right for your boyfriend to pressure you in this way. My entitled classmate steals my computer right off my desk, denying ever taking it when I desperately start searching for it. But after the school administration and the principal get involved to find my computer, the culprit eventually steps forward just to avoid a group punishment for the entire class. But now I feel like a jerk for even saying anything in the first place. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own stories. So to start things out, all names in this story are fake. So this story happened a couple years ago when I was attending middle school. I was in my first period, which was art class, and there are these three troublemakers who sit in the corner of the class. I sat near them, but not completely with them. Let's call them Tony, Tom, and Bob. I had my headphones in when I walked up to the front of the class to ask the teacher about the criteria for an upcoming project. While standing there, I heard the sound of my headphones disconnecting from my computer. I turned around to look at my computer, but I didn't notice it gone, and that's because of my classmate's computer. But when I walked back to my seat, I realized my computer is not there. I asked my neighbors if they took it, and they did not. But my mind immediately went to the kids in the back, especially Tom. Now, Tom was known in our school to be a troublemaker and generally not a very good student. They are the type of kids to not pay attention in class and swear during class, class, and when I realized that they probably took it, I walked over and I asked Tony if he had taken it, and he just said to me, "No, why would I take it?" I then looked around a little bit more until giving up and telling the teacher. Let's just call this teacher Mia. Mia was a very strict but nice teacher, and when I told her, she helped me look around and ask other classmates with their computers if they had seen who had taken it or if they had taken it themselves, but nobody turned it in. Mia then got the entire class's attention and told them that if nobody gave it back in the next 5 minutes, she would call the office, and trust me, she sticks to her word. But even then, nobody turned it in. Well, Mia did exactly that. She called up to the office with one admin and 2 security officers coming in and giving the students an ultimatum. They said to us plainly, either you give up the computer in the next 2 minutes or we search every single backpack. But still, nobody turned anything in. They then escorted all the kids to the lunch area and kept me in the room, asking me if my computer had stickers on it to help them find it. We were unsuccessful in searching the room, so the school locked the computer so it could not be used. After being unsuccessful in finding the computer, the principal themselves actually came in with the students and decided to intervene. He said to them, "I've heard students saying that we buy these computers for $20, but in reality they're much more than that. They're well over $200, and it becomes a pretty big deal when they are stolen because they cost a lot to replace." Now, at this point, I felt really embarrassed, and I did not want this to become such a big deal. The principal continued his speech. He said, "I will give you all a choice. Either the computer gets turned in by the end of this period, or there is no field trip at the end of the year for the entire class." And for the record, we had a very nice trip planned to Six Flags. The entire class was silent for the next 3 to 4 minutes, and when the bell rang, a lot of people were mad at me, and I was honestly afraid of getting beaten up. But later that day, the computer was found by Tom, you know, one of the troublemakers from earlier, and he turned it in because it was locked and he couldn't use it. So am I the jerk for reporting this in the first place? What should I do? You are definitely not the jerk. You knew exactly who took it, but they just didn't want to fess up to it. Like, you are definitely not in the wrong, and there's no reason for you to feel guilty in the slightest. Those troublemaker kids in the back very clearly are the ones at fault, and if you and your class actually did end up losing your trip to Six Flags, then trust me, it wouldn't be your fault. It would be Tom and his stupid friends who clearly wanted to mess with you. And I honestly can't stand people like this. People who steal other people's belongings like that. It is honestly so disgusting, and there's no good excuse for it. So hopefully Tom got in trouble for stealing your property, because under no circumstances is that ever okay. And in my opinion, I think you absolutely did the right thing. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I messed up that I've been overestimating my friendship, and I'm starting to realize that it truly is one-sided. Here's what happened. Okay, so my friend and I have been friends since we were kids, with the both of us now being in our early 30s. There are periods of time where we talk and see each other a lot, and there's times where we simply don't. We hadn't been talking and seeing each other much since COVID, but a little over a year ago, we were both in much more stable situations. They stopped using hard substances, and I was in a more stable place with my job. So I decided to reach out. I texted more, I tried to be better. They don't have a car, but I do, so I would drive to see them once a month, if not more. They live pretty far away, so about 2 hours, but it was worth it, I thought. It's not about the money or time I spent getting there. It's about having an actual friend in my life. I was never a super social person, but after COVID lockdown, I now feel super out of touch with everything and everyone. It's gotten better, but I'm not good at making friends, and I'm not the best in social situations. So I figured trying to reach out and become close to this friend was a good start at feeling more like myself. Anyways, we texted to meet at their place days ago, and this person asked me a few days before if someone else could join. And even though I didn't know this person super well, I thought to myself, why not? It could be a better way to get to know somebody new. When I got there, the other person didn't have a car as they got an Uber to get there. But it doesn't matter, I thought. We would just hang out inside. I couldn't go into their place due to their spouse needing to rest, so I drove them around to get lunch and go to the mall, which was the plan all along, but they just never told me that I'd be driving them around. They offered gas money, but I declined because it's not about the money to me. Well, my friend and their friend are much closer than I am with my friend. So much so that most of the time I was there, they were talking about people that I didn't know. They were also going on about times that they hung out, inside jokes, and parties they went to, all of which which I was never invited to. So there was only so many times where I could say, oh wow, that sounds like a lot of fun, all before it kind of started to hurt. It felt like I was a chauffeur and a third wheel. Well, since I'm socially inept, towards the end of the day, I just kind of stayed quiet. And I guess I looked pretty upset. I dropped them off, gave my friend their Christmas present, and said I was just tired, and then I left. When I got home, my friend texted me and asked me if I was okay. They kept spamming me messages and messages about it, and honestly, I didn't mean to be upset. I know my emotions aren't other people's responsibility, and I know other people are allowed to have close friends, even if that doesn't mean that I am one of them. It just hurt to realize I'm not close to them and probably never will be. So I texted my friend that I felt left out and that I know it's not their fault and that I know they are closer to their friend. They texted back basically confirming that they are closer, but that it doesn't matter and that it wasn't their intention to make me feel left out and that they won't include anyone else next time, which wasn't what made me upset. I tried to explain that, and the friend said that they'll make it up to me, whatever that means. I mean, how can they? They didn't do anything wrong. It was me who set unrealistic expectations on a friend I don't see often. Honestly, I feel like the friend is full of garbage and just saying whatever to try and make me not upset so I'll drive them around again. After all the effort that I put through to try and be their friend and get closer, I thought that I mattered more to them, and to find out it's a one-sided friendship just really makes me feel differently towards them. After having to drive so many people in my life around, such as my siblings and other people like friends and family, I'm very burnt out and I'm at my breaking point. I feel left out at work all the time, and I just didn't expect it from someone that I consider a friend. It sucks to realize that you're not as important to someone as they are to you, and it sucks to know that you're an afterthought. So I honestly messed up by thinking I was close to someone when in all actuality, I'm really not. Okay, I think you're going about this in the wrong direction. Like, you're jumping to some weird conclusions that in my opinion are going to be the downfall of your friendship here. Not the fact that your friend has done anything or is like neglecting you in some kind of way, but instead I think you've got to be careful because you might be the reason this friendship falls apart. Like, for starters, let's look at this realistically. You live 2 hours away. Like, I don't care who you are, that makes a very big difference when it comes to like who you're friends with. Like, I have friends who are 2 hours away, and so obviously I don't hang out with them all the time, meaning that the people who are closer nearby geographically are gonna have more of my time. Like, that's a normal thing that happens to literally everybody. But that doesn't mean that your friend doesn't like you. It doesn't mean that they used you the last time they saw you, because there's literally no evidence of that. If this person was not that good of a friend, they would not have bothered to reach out and be like, hey, are you good? And they also wouldn't have tried to like make it better the next time you guys hang out, if that even happens at this point. Like, they do sound like a good friend who wanted to reach out. If they were using you, they would have been like, okay, see you later, and it would then really feel like a one-sided friendship. But it doesn't seem like that happened at all from what you've described, and I think you're blowing this way out of proportion all because your friend has other friends. And that's a really weird overextension on your part, and I think you really need to be careful. And I totally get it. You've had a bad history of being used, it sounds like, but you've got to be careful with that because you very seriously could like judge people incorrectly and completely ruin a friendship that honestly does not seem like it's falling apart. If anything, if I'm being completely honest, it really seems like you're the one tearing this apart. So hopefully you can see this way sooner than later, because from the sounds of it, your friend who lives 2 hours away does sound like a good friend. And in my opinion, I think it's time to look at the positives instead of assuming that your friend is just trying to use you. My entitled mother treats me like garbage and is constantly putting me down despite the fact that I have a disability and is now being forced to live with her against my will. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I got into a really bad accident a while ago, and I basically navigated all the doctor's appointments, therapy, and other things alone with like 2 weekend visits from my mom. I was in so much pain. And then we found out about the diagnosis. I had a brain injury and a bunch of other injuries as well. Anytime my mom came to visit, she'd always yell at me for being rude because I was needing some silence and patience, and she was threatening to leave. I mean, I had pounding headaches all day, every day, on top of seizures and other things. I ended up needing more care, so I had to move back with her since I was a bunch of states away. My friends that lived near me at the time saw me more often than her, and they were of great help. She now has this thing of saying that I never told her how bad everything was, yet she still saw it with her own 2 eyes. I kind of feel betrayed because she rushes to everybody else's problems and has so much concern for them, yet here I was with major injuries and she had blinders on. She let my narcissistic sister know, and her only response to my condition was to say, "Oh no." Meanwhile, this was the same person that my mom would tell me to be nice to when she cried for little things, like me saying no to set reasonable boundaries. It was also at this time during the move that I learned that my mom was moving. My sister is a very interesting kind of person, so she married an older, wealthier guy. They bought a house for her basically in the middle of nowhere, and they expected me to help her move when I could barely lift myself up and I was writhing in pain most days. And they called me selfish numerous times. Then my mom expected me to pay her back for all the trips that she came to see me. At one point, she said that she'd help me get a car because after the uninsured driver had hit me, plus all of the medical bills and not working because of injuries, meant that I was completely out of luck financially. But then all of a sudden, she backtracked that and said that she wasn't obligated to. Then she told everyone else in my family that she was supporting me. She then makes false promises stating that we'll go here or there, and since I'm stuck inside the house for years with no friends close by, while also being in an isolated area, but it never spells out to anything. She never does anything like that, but instead will go do things for an entire day without complaint with my sister and her husband. The worst part was when she said we go to the beach for my birthday, and we just literally parked and got food, and then less than 20 minutes later, she wanted to go back home. She had spent a whole day at the beach with my sibling the previous week, so I just cried for my birthday. And even this one too, because she had made promises that yet again she couldn't keep. Then anytime I bring up the differential treatment, she just gets upset and then yells at me. I mean, nothing ever changes. It's the very reason that I left in the first place, especially because she was invalidating my sibling's awful treatment towards me that she knew was happening. Something in me still loves her, but I just feel so abandoned that my only parent treats me this way. If I wasn't disabled, I'd be out of here so fast, but now it's taking twice as long to be even productive enough to leave. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, I'm gonna say it straight up, but I think your mom is a complete narcissist. Like, she is just straight up ignoring all of your problems, and she's almost ignoring the fact that you're disabled. Like, you're in a situation where you really need people on your team to help you out. And the fact that she's like guilt tripping you and treating you like garbage pretty much every day is just so uncalled for. So hopefully there's some way you can move out or find some kind of like program to help you out, because the way your mom's treating you is absolutely uncalled for. Am I the jerk for not telling my former fiance that I actually bought her dream house? Because right now she and the rest of her family are calling me awful names online, and I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. 10 years ago, my fiance left me a few weeks before our wedding. We grew up in a small town, we were friendly, went to the same school, but we were never in the same clique. She was one of the popular kids and I wasn't. A few years after college, I moved back home when my dad got sick. I found a job in my field about 45 minutes away from home, and I would help take my dad to his chemo appointments. It was during one of those appointments that I ran into my now ex. She was now working at the hospital, and one day while waiting, I decided to ask her out. It turned out that we were interested in a lot of the same things. It seemed like our relationship was going great, and about a year or so into dating, I moved into a rented house together, and in the following year, I proposed. We began looking for a house, and my ex always wanted to live in her grandparents' house on the lake near our town. Her family was forced to sell the house when her grandparents passed away, and this is all due to an inheritance dispute. 6 months before our wedding, a chance event happened. The couple who bought her grandparents' lake house had grown tired of our snowy winters. It took some work and nearly all of my savings, but I was able to buy her dream house. It was going to be my surprise wedding present, so I didn't dare tell her or anyone in her family my plans. A month before our wedding, my ex and her friends went to Miami for her bachelorette party. I'm not sure of what happened there, but part of me doesn't really want to know. But I do know that her high school boyfriend was there as well. When she got back from the trip, she broke down and confessed that she was afraid to get married, and she wanted to call it off. It was a massive mess. She later then moved to Florida and eventually married her high school boyfriend. I ended up moving back to the city for an amazing job. In the meantime, I still had the lake house. With the help of my mom, we started to fix up the lake house, and it honestly took a few years. My mom and dad would look after the contractors while I was in the city. Having the house was perfect when everything was locked down. I was able to escape the city and work remotely from the lake house, and I now live here full time and I work remotely. This summer, we had a 4th of July celebration at the lake house. My sister-in-law used photos photos from the lake this summer in her Christmas card, and one of those cards made it to my ex's cousin. The cousin recognized the house, and the Saturday before New Year's, my ex's mother and sister were at my front door. After the pleasantries and answering their initial questions, they made an offer to buy the house outright. But after refusing their offer, I could tell that they were not happy. A few days later, I got a long text message from my ex. Now, mind you, this was the first time in 9 years that she was talking to me. She called me a jerk for keeping this from her, and her family is blaming her for losing the house again. She then chimed in and asked me to sell it, but I still had no intention of ever selling it. Now her and her family are complaining on social media that this is some sort of revenge. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? You are definitely not the jerk. Like, your intention behind this was to surprise your ex with the house at the wedding, but that never happened because she bailed on the wedding. And if I'm willing to guess, it had something to do with that high school boyfriend that was also at this party. Like, it's mighty convenient that suddenly she's like, oh no, I don't want to get married. And then she turns around and marries the guy that was at the party. Like, come on. She is not fooling anybody, and I'm kind of convinced that she cheated on you. And that's the only reason she backed out all of a sudden. So no, of course you're not the jerk. Your ex-fiance and her family are just really salty that once again, they blew their chance at getting this house. And this completely ignores the fact that you've put the work in to try and get it and fix it up so that you can actually live in it. Like, if they really wanted that house, they would have been jumping on the chance to buy it the second it was available. But they clearly didn't want that, and they only wanted it once you fixed it up. So truly, they're the jerk in this scenario, and I think that you are under no obligation to ever sell that house. My time as a firefighter at a volunteer department was absolutely miserable, and after getting written up for something absolutely ridiculous, I decided that enough was enough, and as a result, I put in my resignation and I never looked back ever again. Here's what happened. So I used to be a firefighter for a volunteer department. The town was small and nothing happened on most days, but I was young and single and I loved the job. I showed up every single time that I could, and the only person who was there more than me was the chief. As many volunteer firefighters know, when grandma falls down at 3 in the morning, you get 1 or 2 people. But if there's a fire, people you haven't seen in months suddenly have enough time to show up. Anyways, that department was a mess. People were always talking bad about each other and backstabbing each other, and training was a joke. You were lucky to get a PowerPoint once a week. Stuff was stolen a lot, and there was once a whole political coup for some reason. Somebody really wanted power in a small town department in the middle of nowhere. I learned it was best to stay quiet and just do my job, and that was helped when I went to night shifts at my real job. I was working 12-hour shifts, and sometimes it was 5 or 6 days a week. I still showed up to every run that I could, but after 7 years there, I was just done with it all. Everything came to a head when I was scheduled 28 12-hour shifts out of a 30-day month. I was still the second most active member out of 30 people, but I wasn't kissing the appropriate butts apparently, and the management just kept trying to get me in trouble. They once said they would fire me for not turning in some paperwork, and I had to point out that the paperwork had been sitting in their mailbox for 3 days. They eventually decided to add a stupid new rule. You were now required to sit at the station for 40 unpaid hours a month. Not doing so could lead to discipline and termination, and I didn't bother. I was about 24 shifts into the month, and I did not care about their dumb rule, but I realized that I could make it, so I left work, I grabbed a change of clothes, and I went to the department. It was about noon, which was midnight to me, since I was working nights. I tried to sleep on the rock-hard beds they provided, and not 30 minutes went by when the training officer kicked the door in and demanded that I get up and help with training. What was my role, you might be asking? I sat on a hose so I didn't move while someone else practiced the pump controls. I mean, a sandbag could have done it just as well. An hour later, the training finished, and I tried to go back to sleep, but I was told off again. I ended up hiding in the TV room just so I could have some peace and quiet. Well, they found me again, and they wrote me up for the first time in years for what amounted to not being enthusiastic enough about the job. I endured a lecture while trying not to fall asleep where I stood, and I finally got to sit down when I got a text from the boss at my real job. They wanted me to work that night and wondered if I was available. So I thought to myself, you know what? I am available, and I just straight up left. A few days later, I got a nasty email from one of the guys who wrote me up, telling me that they didn't like my attitude and that I needed to think about what I wanted. Well, I thought about it and I realized that I didn't want to deal with their garbage any longer. So I wrote my resignation letter, I went back to the station, gathered all of my personal effects, and I never went back there ever again. Honestly, this is like a crash course in how to leave a toxic job. These people completely ignored the fact that you were the most hardworking person at that station, and yet they still treated you like garbage pretty much no matter what. Like, that is honestly so unfortunate, and it's so disturbing in my opinion. Like, you actually cared about doing this job, and they were always constantly putting you down. And that, in my opinion, is just completely unfair. So good for you for knowing your worth and getting out of there as soon as you could, because these people did not value your time or attention in the slightest. And it's really great to see that you figure that out sooner than later. My entitled aunt demands that I take out my nose piercing, as she claims that I'm being a bad influence on the children at our Christmas party. But I decided that I was not going to take that sitting down, so I went back at my aunt in a way that she probably never expected. Here's what happened. So a few days ago, my family met at my great-grandparents' house for a family Christmas celebration. My great-aunt was there with her grandson, his wife, and their child. And let me just say, this particular aunt is always causing drama in the family. We'll call her Rachel. Rachel is not her real name. My dad took me to get my septum pierced for my 18th birthday early in 2023, so I've had it pierced for a while. I've only had the plain silver horseshoe I got back when it was first pierced for a while, but I recently got a new horseshoe piercing, decorated with a bee on one end and a honeycomb on the other. It stands out much more than the other one, so I guess Rachel finally noticed during our celebration. I was sitting on the stairs with my brother as always. Rachel was sitting on the floor across from the stairs with her great-granddaughter, who we will call Sarah for the sake of the story. Sarah is not her real name, and two of my younger cousins. She stared at me for a while, which I assume was because of my hair, because she's never liked the fact that I shaved the sides and got an undercut, but instead, she asked me if I had my septum pierced. I said that I did, and she simply asked me why. Before I could even answer her and give some kind of answer along the lines of, well, because I wanted to, she said, you know, they say that a woman gets her septum pierced so her husband can attach her to a leash and drag her around by it. And she actually said that in front of the three younger girls in the room. My aunt and uncle, who were sitting on the couch off to my left, were shocked. Since none of us wanted to cause a scene, we kind of just laughed it off. I was a bit snappy, and I said to her, well, mine is a horseshoe, not a ring, so it doesn't matter. And then the topic was dropped for a while. Later, after we all ate lunch, Rachel cornered me by the bathroom after I washed my hands and demanded that I take the piercing out because I was being a bad influence on poor Sarah. Now, here's the thing. Sarah was too busy playing around in her new princess dress to notice anything anyone else was doing, so that is honestly just a complete lie. I'm a very anxious person normally, but this jerk of a lady has had something against me and my dad basically my entire life, so I was sick of her garbage. I told her to back off and to stop judging me and my decisions when she's the one that screwed up her own marriage so much that her ex doesn't like being referred to as her ex because it connects him back to her. Well, needless to say, she definitely did not like that answer because she gave me some nasty looks for the rest of the afternoon, but I didn't care. I'm already planning on getting some more nose piercings, and her stupid ideals are definitely not gonna stop me. Honestly, I commend the original poster for standing up for themselves and saying, look, just because I have a piercing on my nose doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It also doesn't mean you're a bad influence on any children around you. Like, seriously, that doesn't make any sense in my opinion. Just because someone looks a certain way or has piercings or tattoos, or maybe their hair is styled in a way that you don't like, doesn't mean that they're being a bad influence on anybody. Maybe that just means they're expressing themselves in the way they see fit and in a way that they enjoy and they want people to see. And on that note, I don't think there's anything wrong with the original poster having their septum pierced. It literally is nobody else's business, and if you don't like it, you can look away. It's okay. And I think the original poster has it completely correct. These really are stupid and outdated ideals in my opinion, because I feel that if you're judging someone based on the way they look and you're deciding whether or not they're a good person based off of like a piercing or something like that, then if anything, you're the jerk if you do that. Because outward appearances like that or style choices are just not a determining factor of if someone's a good or bad influence. Because I've met plenty of people in my life who don't have any tattoos or piercings, who are some of the worst people I've ever met in my life, and I can say that confidently. And for this aunt to make that judgment call and be like, you're a bad influence on this kid, that in my opinion just doesn't make sense, and not to mention just downright rude. So honestly, I think the original poster handled this situation really well, and they fired back at them in a way that really shut this lady up. And hopefully in the future, she won't be so judgmental about somebody's appearance. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love of Am I the Genius? Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled mother has pushed me too far and has completely ruined my New Year's Day by sending awful, toxic messages to me through my family group chat. And now I'm at a loss and I seriously don't know what to do. So for a bit of background, my relationship with my mother is extremely complicated. Growing up, she did so many awful, cruel things to all of us, and these are things both mentally and physically. Now that I'm older and after lots of therapy, I've realized that she was the problem, and it wasn't actually because I was the worst person to ever exist, as she made me feel. So fast forward to now as an adult with my own family, and I'm doing much better. My husband and I have a great relationship, and I truly love him and my beautiful son. We also have a sweet puppy, and we have our first house. But I've had one of the toughest 2 years of my life. After multiple miscarriages and a difficult pregnancy, I had my son and also got my dream dog. Some people will get this and some won't, but my dog is my world, my solid through all of this difficulty. And well, he passed away suddenly this summer. He wasn't even 2 years old, and he passed away in my arms. If you've ever had to hold the dog you loved like your own child as he passed away in your arms, then you'll understand the trauma that it causes. I was very dangerously depressed, and after therapy and antidepressants, 6 months later, I was finally feeling happy again, like I could smile and maybe there could be a son again. I've had a good few weeks. Well, today I woke up to some awful messages from my mother. At just 1 in the morning last night, she had responded to a Happy New Year message I posted in our group, sharing a picture of myself with friends, clearly showing us in company. She told me to have a lovely night and that I look great. Then something changed. Between 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning, she sent me a load of awful messages, saying how she was done with me, how awful I was, and how she's devastated I didn't call her for New Year's. And this was honestly all out of nowhere. I've been so good to her despite the history, but this Christmas I didn't spend it with them. I wanted to spend it with my own family, and I told them well in advance. They agreed that it was a lovely idea and said that they were happy for me, but clearly that was not the case. Now my whole New Year's Day was spent so furious about this. I want to leave the family group and I want to cut ties because I can't do this anymore. She is so awful and then guilts me into feeling like it's all my fault. I genuinely feel like I hate her. But the thing is that I live in a small country where people don't just cut ties with their mother without there being a very public and well-supported reason. I want to set boundaries, but then I don't want to be the reason my son doesn't see his grandparents. I also love my extended family and they won't want the drama. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, that sounds like a really awful situation. What started out as a message of like love and happiness quickly became something that clearly you're probably used to. And that is honestly so unfortunate because it sounds like your mom is awful. Like she treated you and your sister like garbage growing up, and now, even as an adult, that type of behavior is still happening. And that is seriously so unfair. Now, the original poster doesn't go into specifics about what country they're from, so there might be like some kind of like local culture that I'm just not aware of, but I know from my perspective as someone from the United States, if my family or extended family or anybody was treating me like that, I would not only leave whatever group chat you're a part of, but I would also really distance myself from the person who's treating me that way. So it really calls into question why you would want your son anywhere near your mom. Like sure, you want him to have a grandmother growing up and all that. I totally understand where you're coming from. But in my opinion, that's a privilege that your mother can only experience if she cleans up her act. And her cussing you out and saying all these horrible things, all in like a family group chat, that's just really toxic and really weird. And that's behavior that personally I would never tolerate. So honestly, I'm so sorry you had to deal with this, especially with all the rough things that have been happening for the last 2 years. Because your mom is being crazy toxic right now, and you definitely do not deserve that in the slightest. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for keeping a straight face when a gym teacher tried to embarrass me over a scheduling mistake? Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of backstory, this happened back around the early 2000s when I was a high school junior or senior in the Midwest of the United States. The way that physical education worked at my school is that you had to take 4 semesters, and 2 of them were in your freshman year, and they were separated between boys and girls. So there were 4 classes during each period: freshman boys, freshman girls, upper class boys, and upper class girls. They also had a coach assigned to each one. The first day of the semester in PE was a meet-in inside the big gym for orientation. On my schedule, it had it listed as Physical Education F with Coach K, and this would happen during third period. Coach K is not actually this person's name. So it was the first day of school, and I was just an unpopular, average 17 or 18-year-old male who honestly was just trying to not stand out. When I arrived, I just sat in the bleachers and talked to my friends. A few minutes later, one of the coaches said, "Okay, we're gonna get started. Look at your schedule, and if you have Coach D on your schedule, line up in this first cone. Coach J is gonna be the second cone, Coach K is at the halfway line, and anyone who has me, line up here." So I got in line, and I was in front since I was about 3 feet away from the half-court line. Shortly after I got to my spot, I noticed that behind me was all the upper-class girls seated behind me on the bleachers. I could hear them talk and giggle about me for a bit, and I had a feeling that this moment will be embarrassing and will haunt me for the rest of the semester. This didn't feel right, so I tried to replay the last 3 minutes in my head to figure out where I messed up, because I was sure that he said that Coach K had the halfway line. Then I heard Coach K start off with his loud drill sergeant voice. He said to me, "What are you doing here? I think you're in the wrong line. Aren't you supposed to be with Coach J?" I tried to talk to him and be like, I'm not really sure. But Coach K interrupted me. He said, "I am wondering if you're up to something. I cannot morally, ethically, or legally allow you to be in this class and share the locker room with the rest of the girls here." Now, the whole time, I was just trying to keep a straight face and stay as calm as possible. So I calmly said to him, "I'm not trying anything, I just did what you said, here." And then I handed him my schedule. He takes a look and his face goes from having a big, cocky smile to then having one that was full of confusion. Coach K said to me, "Wait a minute, that's my name on there, and you're on my roster." He then tried to embarrass me again. "Didn't you notice the letter F on your schedule and wondered why it was there? You're bright, you should have spotted that." I responded by saying, "I figured the letter F was there to stand for the fall semester." Now, at this point, I can hear the girls laughing and enjoying every moment of this exchange. His face went from smiling to annoyance, and he called the other coach to explain the situation. After a minute, he comes back and says to me, "Okay, you can go with Coach J, and when he's done with you, meet up with me and we'll go to the office to get your schedule fixed." Now, I have to say, walking down the hallway with Coach K, we did end up having a laugh about it, so everything was cool. And just to clarify something, I don't think Coach K was being a jerk. I think that he thought the situation was funny and he tried to roast me for just a little bit. To be honest, I always had a sense of humor about myself, and I can take it, and I laugh about stuff that is far worse than what he did. After that, I had a few other students ask me about what happened, and I just told them that the schedule was screwed up. The story did get spread around the school, and it didn't ruin anything for me at all. I mean, a lot of people thought it was funny, and a few people said they even had more respect for me, all because I embarrassed Coach K just for a little bit. This story's great in my opinion because something similar to this happened to me when I was in high school, and let me tell you something, I know exactly how that embarrassment feels. So good for the original poster for standing up for themselves and not allowing some teacher to walk all over them. I'm not sure if my restaurant job is a good place to work at anymore, because right now I'm starting to realize several red flags that are popping up, and it's making me second guess if I even want to work there any longer. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a hostess at a casual pizza restaurant, and my job kinda sucks, but I want to know if there is any red flags in this job that I might be missing, because for the past year, I've been feeling really suspicious about it. First of all, I wanted to be a server when I first applied, and they made me a host because the general manager thought I was too shy to be a server, and I needed to work my way up to serving and open up. It's been almost a year and I'm still hosting. Is that weird or is it normal? Because I've tried to smile and be louder and stuff, and they still think I'm too quiet, and customers have been rude about it, and it's annoying. I don't want to change my entire personality for a job I'll only have temporarily. In terms of side work, it honestly takes way too long most of the time, and people ask me why I'm still there. I have a salad bar to fill up, and if it's not filled up perfectly the way they want, I can't leave until it's full completely. Some nights they make me stay till the restaurant closes at 9 o'clock, even though I was scheduled to leave at 8 o'clock. I know us restaurant workers don't leave exactly at our time that we're scheduled, but I'm over here leaving a whole hour and a half every night. I think it's kind of ridiculous, and customers still come in and ruin the salad bar. Also, my coworkers and the customers keep complaining about how I do my job. They sometimes even try to call me disgusting or unsanitary in the way that I clean things. It also seems like, and maybe this is normal for hostesses, but the servers have a bad attitude with me, and sometimes I felt like they thought I was really stupid. I'm also really bad at phone call orders, and they never really properly trained me on how to do it. They only showed me how to do it once and then expected me to just know. They also wanted me to just answer the phone and put in phone orders, even though I'm not really sure of how to use the point of sale system. I always avoided doing it, and I was scared to do it because I was scared of customers getting mad at me, all because I didn't know what I was doing. The place also looks dirty to me, and it's an old-fashioned restaurant that's been in business since the late 1950s. Roaches are crawling on the buffet bar and flies are on the salad bar, especially in the summer. And of course, the bugs and flies don't come in a lot, but it happens. The place always has a leak, and the air conditioning is bad, and it's never fixed. Now, to end things off, today when I was working earlier in the day, multiple ovens were not working, and only one was, and it was barely functioning. Pizzas were taking forever to come out, and customers were complaining and really angry. Meanwhile, the servers and managers were getting yelled at. The general manager was saying don't call him on his day off, and the associate manager just canceled the ticket to whoever was complaining so badly. It was just ridiculous to even be open in the first place. They didn't have enough dough to make pizzas either, and the general manager and the associate manager just didn't care. They wanted to stay open and just keep trying to fix the oven. I mean, the general manager wasn't even there. The associate manager did eventually come in and tried to fix it, but when my shift was done, it was still the same. Pizzas finally came out, but I mean, it was just so stupid how the managers just didn't care. The associate manager just kept saying, well, it is what it is. And it's like, what are you talking about? If the ovens aren't working, then we really should close. Because now employees are getting yelled at, and they just didn't seem to care in the slightest. The manager that was getting yelled at just walked out, and that's why the associate manager had to come in. Also, customers were walking out, and since I'm the host, they told me to tell customers that were walking in about the oven issue, and I was honestly scared to do that because customers would have gotten mad at me, but I mean, I had to do it because it's either that or else they would have gotten mad while sitting down, waiting and not knowing. The entire situation was absolutely ridiculous. If the restaurant is going to be this unorganized and careless, I question if I should work there any longer. Also, one of the servers was in tears and was talking about quitting. There is also times where I come in and the sheet that should be made for me to sit customers in certain sections is not made. So sometimes I don't know where to sit customers. I mean, that's weird, right? But then they have the audacity to make me feel like a hot mess that doesn't know what they're doing at times. And it's honestly not fair. I've also seen a good amount of people quit after a few weeks or months of working there, or just get fired in general. I mean, nobody sticks around. They also throw in that we are a family, and that's a line that gets thrown around sometimes. And I'm pretty sure that's a big red flag. So honestly, after everything I've said, is this just normal restaurant stuff? Or is this place just one big giant red flag? It is my first job, and I've been thinking of finding another restaurant or another job outside of the restaurant since it is just a temporary thing for me. I just got the job because I needed the money, and this is the only job that would accept me. Plus, me wanting to try serving and my general manager won't let me do it is what's really kind of frustrating to me. I talked to them about it, and they say they will someday, but they're still working me up to it, and I just feel strung along. Plus, I want to be better at socializing and not be so awkward socially, and I thought serving would help me out with that, but maybe I just need to find another job, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, based on what you described, this job sounds like a mess. Like seriously, this place is full of red flags, and you identified quite a few. For starters, it's not totally unusual to have a restaurant that is really high pace and high energy. It's also not unusual to have customers that just straight up suck. Like some of these people are just terrible people, they come in to eat and they're gonna treat you and everybody else like garbage. And that's just the way it is in the restaurant business. There's not much you can do about that, and you kind of just have to deal with it. Also, when it comes to like taking phone orders and using the point of sale system, I think you could like pull your manager aside and be like, listen, I don't know what I'm doing and this is really a problem. And I think with practice, you can eventually catch on to it, but those few things are like the only things about this restaurant that can possibly be managed, because everything else is like a walking hazard. I mean, there's roaches and flies all over the place, and we're talking like around the food. Like this place does not sound clean at all. And based on what you've described, the managers just gave up. They literally don't care. They're nowhere to be seen. The general manager didn't even come in when all the ovens broke, which by the way, they really should be there to coordinate that. And also the other manager just walked out, with the associate manager basically not really wanting to do their job either. So from the top down, there's like no leadership, nobody knows what anyone else is doing, and it honestly all sounds like absolute chaos. And more so than what you would normally expect experience in a restaurant already. Like waiting staff as well as like the people in the back cooking the food, everybody across the board is always busy, they're always hustling, and they're just trying to get their stuff done. And while it is a little bit of chaos, it is controlled chaos. It might seem like nobody knows what they're doing, but normally people are like on board and they do their job. But what you've described is like the complete opposite. The management doesn't care, there's health code violations, the equipment is breaking down, servers and other staff have terrible attitudes towards you and everybody else, and it sounds like the turnover rate is absolutely through the roof. So to answer your question, is this place just a walking red flag? In my opinion, it absolutely is. Like for starters, this general manager is never gonna make you a server. I'm just gonna say that outright. He keeps saying that they'll get to it eventually because he is stringing you along hoping that you'll just leave him alone so that he can focus on other things. Like he does not care about your career advancement in the slightest. And if you're the newest one in the restaurant experiencing that, then you can bet the person who's been there for like 5 years, they are also running into that brick wall as well. But the one line that I think really made my skin crawl is when the manager said that we are a family. Like that phrase is like the biggest red flag because most times that phrase is used like a weapon where management will guilt trip you into doing stuff and giving up vacation time just so you can cover their shifts and they can go off and do whatever they want. Because for the record, no, you are not family. You are coworkers and that's it. You are there to make money and make rent. That is it. It doesn't matter how many friends you have there, they are not family and that job is not your whole life. So I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would be finding another job. This work environment sounds incredibly toxic. It sounds like a nightmare to deal with, and I just don't see this as anything more than a dead-end job. An entitled couple make my restaurant job a living nightmare, cursing me out as well as falsely accusing me of having an attitude with them. And this is all because I didn't give them exactly what they wanted right when they walked in. And I've honestly never been treated this poorly ever in my 6 years of working in restaurants. Here's what happened. Okay, so it takes a lot for me to cry in the walk-in at this point, but this got me really bad. This is quite possibly the worst treatment I've ever had after 6 years of working in restaurants. So last night I was hosting and managing at the restaurant I work at, and I saw a couple walk up, so I headed towards the door to greet them. Unfortunately, our host stand that has a sign on it saying wait to be seated is outside the building and it is very tiny. So a lot of people tend to completely miss it and walk right in and choose to ignore it because it's getting cold and they don't want to wait outdoors. Now this I am used to. The woman in this couple opens the door and grabs a menu from the server stand and goes back outside. So I go out the door and I say, "Hi, how can I help you folks?" To which she says to me, "We're just gonna sit right over here," and motions to the fire pit waiting area. I tell her that we don't see people there as it's just for waiting, but I can get them seated on the heated patio since they have a dog. She gives me a look and says, okay, with a tone that was really rude, but I try to brush it off. I take them to the heated patio and say that they can sit down and I'll bring them menus and water as I point to the two-top table. There is another party on the patio that also has a dog, and I hear the man comment to the woman about their dog potentially freaking out. I come back with the water, menus, plates, and setups, and they're sitting at the table on the other side of the patio that is currently set up for 8 people. I place the items on the two-top and I say to them, "So I will actually have you folks sit right here so I'm able to fully seat this patio." To which the woman rudely says to me, "No, we have to sit over here because there's another dog over there." Now at this point I'm feeling defeated. So this is the only time I can see where they might have thought I had some kind of attitude, but I just softly said okay and brought their stuff over. I try to move a couple of tables around so I can still have some room for other parties that need or want to sit outside, but that's when a man stands up and I say to them, "No worries, you folks can sit right there. I just need to move a couple things around so I can have room for other parties." But this guy then says something that honestly blew my mind and really caught me off guard. This man says to me, "Actually, we're leaving because you have a terrible attitude and we do not feel welcome here." And when this guy said that to me, I was honestly shocked and immediately started shaking. I said something along the lines of, "Sir, I'm sorry. I promise I'm not trying to have any sort of attitude. I just need to optimize seating. I'm just doing my job." The woman then stands up and says, "That is a garbage apology. You've been a giant jerk ever since we walked up." Now, for reference and as a side note, they said several swear words at me, and I have never been cussed at or called a name like that ever in my life. Then the other party sitting on the patio chimed in and basically defended me, saying that they heard everything and I had no form of an attitude, and that it's absolutely uncalled for to use profanities against me. They said that they were in the wrong from the start because they disregarded the host stand. The woman fights back and says they need to stay out of it, while also saying, "We are from out of town. We have never been here and we did not know there's a host stand." To which the other party said, "Well, we've never been here either, but we still know how to read." At this point, I'm just trying to get these people to leave because the man is standing outside the gate of the patio, just absolutely berating me even after I apologize for something I didn't do. And I asked them to just go ahead and leave. And the other party is still trying to defend me, and it feels like all too much, and I know I'm about to cry. He finally gets in his stupid Tesla, and then they leave. The other party says they're so sorry that just happened to me, and I thank them for sticking up for me and apologize that they had to witness any of that. Thankfully, my general manager is also there and witnessed the end of the situation through the window, so she comes with me to walk in and tell her everything that happened and assures me it is not my fault. And I thought that maybe this would be the end of it, but trust me, these people go even further. Those people call and complain to her, again, even though she knows I didn't do anything wrong, and then proceed to leave a Yelp review which, of course, leaves out half the story and any mistake they could have made, saying they needed to stay away from the other dogs on the patio in case those dogs aren't friendly, even though I overheard them say that their dog might freak out, which also is like, come on, have some common sense. Don't bring your dog to a restaurant if it can't behave. The past month has been one of the most difficult I've had in a while, battling chronic illness through the holidays, then getting sick again, and then working doubles back to back. Once I get back from dealing with all of that, I don't understand how people can be so entitled and talk to someone that they don't even know on the first day of the new year. I'm just feeling so defeated with humanity and how unfair we get treated as service workers, even though we're doing our best to keep everybody happy. Yeah, that couple was just completely out of line. They were massive jerks to you and you did not deserve to get treated that way. And the other group that was on the patio with them, they were completely right. They were from out of town just like this couple, and they were still able to follow procedure and wait for the host and pretty much do everything they were supposed to. Because it really seems like the couple you had to deal with, who were just determined to cause problems, literally did everything wrong almost on purpose. So truly, I'm so sorry you had to deal with that, and hopefully nothing like this ever happens ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for still withholding all of the presents I bought for my family, all because of the prank gifts they got me and my girlfriend? Because even though I told them that I don't want any pranks on Christmas Day, they decided to violate that and do it anyways. And right now, I'm super mad and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so in the past couple of years, I started making good enough money that I bought a house, and I still have plenty after the monthly bills. My family have all been pranksters and at times entitled my entire life. But Christmas Eve, they took the cake. I was no contact with them for several years, but they convinced me to reconnect after I moved closer. Now for gifts, I got them all good stuff. Stuff like tablets for the kids with built-in DVD players, sports memorabilia and camping stuff for my dad, brother, and uncle, specific antiques, jewelry, and appliances for my mom, my sister-in-law, and my aunt. And I decided to bring my girlfriend with me, as what little family she has are just completely horrible. So she was delighted to spend Christmas Eve with my family. Everything was going smoothly, and I warned my family, no pranks on me or my girlfriend at all. They swore none would happen, but they could not resist. We got attacked by silly string from multiple fronts, and even though that stuff reeks and it gets everywhere, somehow we power through that. But then came the gifts, and I wasn't really expecting much, but none of them even tried. I got dollar store cooking utensils and a pair of insanely ugly holiday socks that I did confirm were also from the dollar store, and I also got a pink hat, and that was all just from my parents. They all kept snickering and recording me as I unwrapped random junk, one of the presents being a used mirror to a car that I no longer own, and the one gift there to my girlfriend was a bottle of fart spray. And so at that moment, I told them that I had had enough, and that they'd agreed to have no pranks. Well, long story short, they weren't just gag gifts. They were the only presents there for us. And at that point, I had had enough, and I just started gathering up all the presents that I'd bought. They all freaked out and demanded I give them back, but I told them all that they didn't change one bit, and they could kiss all of that stuff goodbye. So we bagged everything and then we stormed out. The family kept calling and messaging me that I'm being greedy and I can't take a joke, and that they couldn't think of anything to get me, while also stating that the kids are crying. So honestly, am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? Seriously, I don't think you're the jerk in the slightest. I think the way that these people treated you was really toxic and uncalled for, and this is all after you basically spelled it out that no, you don't want any pranks. You don't like them, you don't want them, and you wanted this Christmas to just be a genuine moment for you and the family that you're just now reconnecting with. Like the fact that they would think this is okay behavior to do, and basically put like no thought into any gift they were gonna give you after you probably spent all this money to get gifts for all of them, that is seriously so disappointing, and honestly, I hope you're able to get your money back. Like, a prank is only funny if it's appreciated by everybody involved, and if it's not mutually appreciated, then guess what? That's just bullying. These people literally bullied you and your girlfriend in a moment where you did not want to be bothered. You wanted a genuine Christmas day, and these people just completely ruined it. So with all that in mind, I don't think you're the jerk, and honestly, if I was in that scenario, I would have done the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for picking a revealing bridesmaid dress in order to get one of my bridesmaids to drop out of my party? Here's what happened. So let me just say this has been a long time coming. My soon-to-be husband has a sister, and we're gonna call this sister Megan for the sake of the story. Megan is not her real name. Now, Megan and I do not click very well. I am polite, but I wouldn't say that we are friends. I felt that I was forced by his family to make her a bridesmaid or she will be sad. Now, I'm gonna be blunt. Megan is fat and very insecure about it, and this has led bridesmaid dresses shopping to be a nightmare. I could never find something that she wants that my other bridesmaids as well as myself would also like. So I gave everyone two options to vote on. Option one was getting a dress that can be styled multiple ways, or picking from a collection so everyone matches but they will need to pay for it. Option two was that I will buy everyone's dress, but I would choose the dress and that would be my final decision. My 5 bridesmaids voted and option 2 won. So I picked out a blue strapless dress with a mini slit. I really liked it and I knew that Megan would have an issue with it. I sent a picture to all the bridesmaids and confirmed everybody's sizes right before I ordered it. And this is where it all blew up. Megan was angry I picked a revealing dress, and this resulted in an argument where she thinks that I'm a huge jerk, but I told her she can step down if she has an issue with the dress. She tried to get the family on her side, but everyone knows I gave them options, and they had watched me struggle to find something that everybody wants. Now, for the record, she voted for the option where I pay for the dress, and I truly did not ask her to be my bridesmaid, since she and my mother-in-law announced that she was one of my bridesmaids at a family gathering. The only way to keep peace with the whole family was basically giving her what she wanted. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, that last little part honestly kind of blows my mind. The original poster didn't even invite Megan to be a bridesmaid, but instead Megan and her stupid mother is like, oh my gosh, Megan's a bridesmaid. And it's like, what are you people doing? This is not your wedding. This is my wedding. You can't just make that kind of announcement and then ambush the bride and be like, yeah, Megan's gonna be a bridesmaid, right? This really felt like some kind of mafia shakedown, and that's just not fair. But at the end of the day, this is your wedding, and you gave all of your bridesmaids a choice on what kind of dress they would want. And this is the option that the majority agreed to, so guess what? That's what we're going with. So in my opinion, if Megan voted for you to buy the dress, then she has no right to throw a fit over what you picked. She can either deal with it or she can step down. Those are basically her options. Her insecurities, in my opinion, are not a part of the equation. Because again, this is your wedding. You decide what happens and nobody else. And if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would let the insecurities of this Megan lady try to dictate what you can or cannot do at your wedding. My sister-in-law announced her engagement shortly after mine and wore an exact replica of my ring as an engagement ring. And right now, I can't help but feel that she's copying me and my husband, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, so my fiance Steve asked for my hand in marriage, with our wedding taking place this summer. Naturally, we are very excited, and we have been for the past few months. We've been together for 8 years, and have gone through college together, traveled the world, and have cultivated a large but close friend group that we're very happy with. He has a sister who has always kind of felt like a one-upper to him. In the past, I've tried to be the voice of reason. She was kind of lonely, didn't have many friends, and only one past painful relationship. So we have tried to include her, patch up the relationship, and so on, but it never really became a close relationship. The reasons why is because they're always looking back. She either acts jealous towards me, or if he announces anything special, she has to try and one-up him and be the center of attention. He says it has always been this way, even back when they were children. Now, there is this weird unspoken competition between her and everybody else in the family, where she is always trying to belittle another person or steal the show. Needless to say, it has become quite annoying, but so far neither of us have lost their temper with her. A few days ago, at a family get-together, they were drinking wine and cheering, and his sister and her new partner of 1.5 years suddenly announced their engagement out of nowhere, seemingly just shy of a month after moving to the city together. Now, we are happy and we're smiling, and we're trying to push away the weird gut feeling that comes creeping up, but then we both catch a glimpse of her ring and suspect that they copied our ring. After a while, it sunk in. It is an exact copy of the engagement ring her brother had carefully picked out for me. We tried to take the high road and congratulate her, but soon thereafter we left for our house. In the past few days, both of us have been very upset. We've been disappointed and angry, and we are also weirded out by it and incredibly put off. I am trying to contain myself. I am telling myself that it's only a materialistic thing, and if she's found happiness, we should be sharing that. But on the inside, I am fuming, and so is my fiance. And at this point, we seriously don't know what to do. Okay, so I can definitely understand where the original poster's coming from. I mean, here you have this woman who announced her engagement right after you, and then her ring is exactly like yours. So I can completely understand why you would be like, wait, what is she doing? Because it really does seem like she's trying to one-up you and your husband. And if she really is trying to do that, that's just like super creepy and super weird. But with all of that in mind, I think it would be way worse to say something about this and try and like draw attention to it, as opposed to what I feel is the smart route and just focusing on your own wedding and your own thing. Because maybe she is copying you. Maybe she's doing this just to annoy you, and she's stuck in this comparison game that you are definitely not participating in. And if that's really the case, where she's trying to be like in competition with you or something like that, then that is completely on her and that has nothing to do with you. Like, she sounds a bit unstable if I'm completely honest, and it kind of sounds like your husband and yourself are like the only people that really picked her up. So maybe that's why she's trying to copy you and try and like one up everything you're doing. Like, hopefully it isn't, because if that is the case, that is really weird. But regardless, in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, I would not make a big deal out of this, because I think drawing attention to it is only going to cause problems overall, and I can only imagine that would be an absolute nightmare to deal with any kind of fallout. My job is absolutely obnoxious, as I am so sick of dealing with customers who expect me to read their mind when they're trying to find an item that they don't know the name of. Here's what happened. So to start things out, I want to ask a question. What is it with people not knowing the name of a product, but then expecting us as the people who work there to know exactly what they're vaguely describing? Now, I work in a general store, and if I had the brain capacity to have extensive knowledge on every item we sell, I wouldn't be stocking shelves for a living. So anyways, this lady stops me in the store and asks me where the crackers are. Now, that's not my department, so I search it up on the system. As I'm doing so, she points to this other worker and says, "That boy right there told me where they were and he was wrong." But I tell her, "No ma'am, they were exactly where he told you." It turns out when she asked where the crackers were, she meant an entirely different item that's in a different place. I had to figure this one out as she had no clue what they were called. So I tell her where they are, and then she tells me to fetch them for her and find her in the checkouts. On top of that, she gave me instructions on how many packs to get. She stated that if they have the 6-pack, I should get 2 of them, and if they have the 12-pack, I should get 1 of them. But the funniest thing about this is that she literally had to walk past them to get to the checkouts. Like, this isn't my job description. I am not your personal servant. I help people getting items if they physically can't get them, but she very much could, and they were en route for her. So it's this weird mix of being rude, expecting us workers to read her mind, and being mad that we can't do that, and then making me run around doing her shopping for her, just to then hand deliver them to her for literally no reason. It's honestly really annoying. I also had someone ask me to tell them where juice for babies was, because she wanted a very specific one, and I tried explaining that if I don't have a name or any other description of this specific item, I literally cannot help her. I went through all the juices that's marketed for kids, and not a single one of them was right. I tried explaining that I can't just search up baby juice because nothing would come up, but she just kept staring at me waiting for an answer. Older people do the same thing with printer ink, and they expect me to know what printer they have. Then they start pointing at printers and screaming, "It looks like that," even though all the printers look like that. But overall, it's just super annoying to deal with, and I'm so tired of having customers that think I can read their mind. Yeah, I can only imagine how frustrating that must be on a daily basis. Like, you have people walking up and being like, "Find me the baby juice, I need it right now." And you're like, "Lady, what are you talking about? There's no such thing as baby juice." Like, I know what you're trying to ask, but unless you've got like a brand name or something, I've got nothing for you. So I completely understand where the original poster's coming from, and hopefully this job gets better sooner than later. 2 years ago, I won a huge amount of money in a settlement, and I'm essentially retired at 31 years old. And right now, no one in my life knows anything about it. Here's what happened. Okay, so I can't get into specifics due to the terms of the settlement, but I got more money than I'd ever dreamed of having. Enough to where I would never have to work ever again. I quit my job and invested the bulk of it, and the investments paid off, and I essentially made nearly 6 times that money in the last 2 years. Now here's the thing. No one in my life knows exactly how well off I am. My immediate family and friends know that I received a settlement, but not for how much. Now that the pandemic is over, I spend my time traveling, while my accountant and my broker handle everything else, and the money just keeps growing. I grew up pretty poor, and was poor until said settlement happened, so it's still all very new to me. I've been so blessed, and I'm so grateful to be in the position that I'm in. I've made a lot of anonymous donations to various charities I believe in, and I have seen firsthand what they've done to change lives with money that I've sent them. I've tried really hard and succeeded at keeping out of the public eye, thankfully, but I'm honestly not sure what to do with the rest of my life. But I know I'm not going to be stopping here. I don't plan on telling anybody in my family, and I even bought a modest home with cash, as well as a new car, new clothing, as well as a few odds and ends like a new phone. But outside of that, I don't appear as wealthy as I really am, and my family thinks I'm a day trader for a living, which is mostly true. And honestly, I really hope to keep it that way for the rest of my life. Wow, good for the original poster for basically being loaded. And I think the original poster probably already knows this, but seriously, don't tell anybody about the money that you got. If you want to see the dark side of people, just admit to family and friends that you're loaded and you have a lot of money. Because I think we've all been on the internet long enough where we've seen all kinds of stories of people like winning the lottery, telling their friends and family about it, and then eventually they lose everything. But it sounds like the original poster is a lot smarter than that, and hopefully they're able to protect their money throughout the rest of their life and not have to deal with anybody who would want to try and take that from them. An entitled old man blocks traffic and refuses to move up his car so that I can properly get out and go to my job. But after waiting and honking our horn for several minutes, things escalate to the point where this old man gets out of his car and backhands me in the face, supposedly because I don't respect elderly people. Here's what happened. So this happened to my partner and I in the spring of last year, and the security guards at my place of work still giggle about it to this day. So I'm a cleaner for a mall, and there is nowhere to safely park for me to get out when he is dropping me off to work in the afternoons, except for this one set of doors, which is super convenient for me because it's the closest entrance to the security office where I have to sign out my keys, which also leads to the area that I work in. But it also happens to be the sketchiest entrance for the whole building. The area to park is just a little pull-in loading zone that's about 6 car lengths long. Most of the time it's full of cars, so my partner gets over as close as he can and throws his 4-ways on so I can quickly get out and go inside. Well, this day in particular, a transport truck that I assume was making a delivery to one of the restaurants inside decided he was going to park there instead of going to the loading dock in the underground parking. As we were driving up to pull in ahead of the transport, the car in front of us pulls in. But instead of pulling up all the way, they parked right in the middle, making a space large enough for 3 small cars taken up by his Honda Civic. So at first, my partner just sighs and stops behind the transport to let me out. But the traffic was very heavy that day, so he had to pull over so close to the running transport that I could barely open my car and was instantly being blasted with the hot air from the engine. So my partner tells me to stop and beeps his horn at the Honda. The old man in the driver's seat whips his head around, gives us an evil death glare, all before turning back and not moving an inch. So he beeps again, this time gesturing with his hand out the window for him to pull up just a little bit. We have a 2-door Mini Cooper S, so all he had to do was roll up his idling car 3 or 4 feet and we could easily squeeze in. But the guy literally doesn't want to move, so we decide to wait. But no one is getting in or out of the car. He is literally just sitting there. So my partner beeps again, gesturing with his hand, indicating that he should move up. If the space was big enough, we would have just pulled up in front of him, but it was just a tad too small of a space, and the traffic is whizzing by so fast and heavy that it would be a feat to even pull back on the road at this point. But this time, both the driver and his passenger, whom I'm assuming is his wife, just turn back and give a scrunched up stink eye, but still don't move. I told my partner to just give up and started attempting to squeeze out of the car when he gets fed up with this entitled jerk and holds down the horn as hard and as long as he possibly can. And I'm talking like a good 1.5 minutes at least. He then opens up his windows fully and starts yelling at this guy. He says, "Move your car so that my wife can safely get out and go to work." Finally, we see movement, but it's not the car moving up. It's the old man getting out of his car, screaming at us as he's stomping over. My partner at this point was not backing down. He told the old man that he needs to move his car up a bit because I can't get out against a running transport. But the old man doesn't seem to care or even listen. He instead starts screaming through the window about how my partner is a jerk and that he is waiting to pick up a disabled person, so he is not able to move his car, while also saying that my partner has no respect. The argument goes back and forth without going anywhere. So, out of frustration, my partner throws his smoke out the window as he's about to squeal away, but the old man is still hovering his face back and forward in front of the window. So, when my partner flicked it, he tried to throw it at an angle on the front of the car, but it ended up hitting the inside rim of the door and bounced towards the old man. This caused him to full out rage and even try to punch my partner in the face, but he clipped his hand on the half-open window instead. He continued to swing, but this gave me that split second to hit the power windows button to roll up. So now he's just standing there repeatedly punching the driver's side window, screaming something about how we have no respect for the old. Now, because he's not moving, my partner couldn't pull out on the road either, so we're just sitting there watching him punch and scream at our car. Finally, a guy in his 40s with a walker comes strolling out, but get this, the little ramp for the curb that he had to use to get his walker down was exactly where this jerk's car would have been sitting if he had just pulled up a little bit, which made the disabled guy actually have a harder time to go completely around to get back to the passenger door. Now, at this point, I'm completely late for work, so I managed to slip out of my door, and as I'm walking around the transport to get onto the sidewalk, this old jerk comes running around his car with a folded up walker, screaming at me about how I have no respect for the old and disabled, and then he does something I honestly never expected. He backhand slaps me right across the face. My partner is halfway sticking out into traffic when this happens, trying to merge in, but stops when he sees this. Behind me are two security guards walking up to investigate what all of the noise is about, having them along with the 20 other bystanders now gawking at the commotion. Without a blink of the eye, I rip the walker out of his hand and I throw it into oncoming traffic. As he rushes over to the road to attempt to chase it, I ran up behind him and was about to give him one big push when 4 familiar arms grabbed me in a bear hug and pulled me back. It was the security guards, stopping me from making one of the biggest mistakes of my life. But the real kicker is when the security guard was writing up his no trespassing papers, banning him, his wife, and the disabled guy he was picking up from the property for life, was the shocked fish out of water face he had when the other guy picked up and passed me my hearing aid that went flying out of my ear when he struck me in the face. I've been legally deaf for the past 10 years from a car accident where a transport spun out on black ice and smashed into my ex's car. I know there's no way he could have known that. I just found it ironic that he was so outraged about us not respecting the fact that he felt he was entitled to take up half the loading zone just to pick up a guy with a walker, all while he was forcing a deaf girl to wedge herself between a running transport and oncoming traffic just so she could get to work. Now, I do regret the way I acted, but luckily I had coworkers there to stop me right in time. Yeah, this is a crazy story because I gotta be honest, both parties do not look good in this instance. For starters, the old man in this story really could have just rolled up like, 5 feet so you can properly get out of your car? Like, it really would not have been that difficult to do that, and that guy was completely in the wrong. Also, his reaction to punching and screaming at your car, as well as backhanding you in the face, is honestly insane to me. I'm kind of surprised that the police didn't get involved, but it kind of makes sense because your partner did throw a cigarette in his face, and I know it wasn't on purpose, but from the old man's perspective, it probably definitely was, so that's definitely not a good look either. But also, I can't imagine that's the only place your partner can drop you off just so you can get out of your car and go to work. I know anytime I've been to the mall, there's always a massive parking lot close by you easily could have gone to. I don't know, it kind of seems like there was a massive lack of planning, and this all could have been avoided if you just took other steps. But honestly, in my opinion, the fact that this guy physically attacked you is completely uncalled for. That was so far out of line, and in my opinion, that makes him the bigger jerk than either you or your partner. But what do you think? Leave a comment down below. What would you do in this situation? Let us know down below. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boss introduces a new time tracking tool to supposedly avoid time manipulation on our part. So me and my coworkers band together and decide to work the system, causing this new time tracking tool to backfire in my boss's face in a way that was deeply rewarding. Here's what happened. So I work in a small startup company of around 12 people. It's a very good atmosphere in the office, and everyone pulls their weight and is super motivated. However, our boss likes to micromanage us, even though he has no expertise in our fields. And this is especially relevant for us in marketing and design. We really suffer from this a lot, since he will make changes to our strategies and our posts and our website, sometimes all without telling us, and then gets upset at us when the customer feedback is bad and we aren't reaching our predicted goals. So recently, he told us that the reason he thinks we aren't seeing enough results is all because we are manipulating our hours and not actually putting the work in that we should. Until then, we each wrote down our hours manually in an Excel spreadsheet, but with a new time tracking tool, he would see how long we were working down to the minute. He also could only log in on our PCs and previously approved household devices, but not mobile, because if you are not at your desk, it does not work. After our initial shock passed and our boss left for the day, our manager called for a meeting and we came up with a plan. We would do as he says in the most just following the rules kind of way. For starters, we would not engage in work-related conversations with him unless we are sitting at our desks and we're clocked in. Any questions by him which are asked when we are off the clock will only be answered once we clock in again the following day. Every phone call, text message, or otherwise work-related things outside of the office would only be answered once there was an option for us to clock in either the next day in office or for some of us on our home office device. Since we no longer have the option to shift time manually, all work minutes and hours would be clocked exactly when they took place. And as a side note to that, in my country, weekends pay better. Sundays have to be paid double, and working after 8 p.m. warrants additional financial benefits by law. Previously, if we needed to post something really quick or we had a question, we would just add the weekend hours or late time to the upcoming Monday. Basically, we were working out of goodwill, but that was very swiftly ending today. We would also stop any independent activity like posting on social media or writing an email, and would send him everything to approve before following through. Well, after about a week, our boss was so fed up with this, he gave us the option to clock in from our mobile devices so he could get more immediate response to his questions. However, this of course led to us clocking in way more frequently. Well, fast forward to 2024, and I'm happy to report that we've abolished the system again and regained most of our independence. And even though our boss is still upset about how we exploited the system, it brought the team closer together and it taught him a valuable lesson. Yeah, that boss is being super obnoxious. Like, the only reason he wanted that time clock system or whatever he was trying to do was so he could find yet another excuse for why he can micromanage your job. Because if he seriously doesn't see that he's the problem with you not meeting your deadlines, then I just don't know what will make him realize that in the long run. Like, this guy's trying to be like, okay, change this design today. And it's like, dude, what are you talking about? I can't just do that overnight. I mean, sure, I could, but it's not going to be the high quality that you would expect from an office. But I just love how everybody in that department basically banded together and basically said, oh, okay, you want to change things on us? Well, congratulations, we're going to work the system and make your life a living nightmare. So good for all of these people for doing that and making him reverse everything that he started, because his new system was just really dumb, and there was no reason for him to try and micromanage you and your coworkers in the slightest. My entitled mother caused a massive fight over her wanting to go out for lunch, and right about now, I'm kind of thinking that it's my fault, but I'm seriously not sure, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. 2 days ago, we were all at home, and then my mom came back from her doctor's appointment and randomly said that she wanted to go out for lunch. The thing is, we already had stuff cooking, and it was almost done, and it would have been a waste to not eat it, except none of us wanted to say anything about it in case she had a big fuss over it. So she asked us whether we want to go out for lunch, and me and my siblings were like, sure, I mean, if you want. And we did this mostly because we didn't want to make her think we didn't want to spend time with her. And then she asked us where we want to go, only we didn't really have a preference since we we don't go out often, and we don't mind what we eat, so we said we can go wherever you want. But then me and my dad pointed out that we have chicken wings in the air fryer already cooking, and that it would be a waste if we didn't eat them. And it's also important to note that she already knew that we were cooking lunch by the time she got back. She kept making suggestions about where we could go, and then kept asking us where we wanted to eat, to which we replied we're fine with anything, but she still didn't choose a place. I told my dad really quietly that I think she really wants to go out, but is being indirect about it. So why don't we choose somewhere random and eat there and eat the stuff we're cooking for dinner? But she must have thought I was making a rude comment or something like that, because she demanded to know exactly what I just said. I said to her, oh, I just thought you really wanted to go, but didn't want to say in case we didn't want to, and suggested that we just choose somewhere and go. Well, when I said that, she got mad and started yelling at me for whispering behind her back, which I will admit is probably kind of what I was doing, only it wasn't intended as a snide remark, but unfortunately she did end up taking it as such. Then she got really mad and started saying stuff like, oh, this family is so ungrateful because the kids never appreciate anything we do for them. If you don't appreciate us trying to do something nice for you, then you're a big jerk. Only she didn't call us a jerk and instead said a really bad swear word. And this is definitely not the first time she's used swear words on us either. My brother was in his room when he heard the swear words screamed out, and he came outside and asked her what she said. Then my mom said, I just said if you don't appreciate what we're doing for you, then that's fine. And he said, no, not that part, the other part. And she still wouldn't tell him and started telling him off for pressing her when she didn't want to talk about it. Later, when I thought she wasn't in earshot, I pulled my brother over and told him what she said, because I knew he wouldn't be satisfied until he knew. It's also important to note that I didn't realize she could hear me, and this was probably a stupid thing to do, but I was already annoyed at the time and didn't think it mattered at that point, especially not when everyone was already annoyed too. After that, my mom started going on and on about us not being grateful and being rude and stuff, and started asking my dad why he wasn't defending her. Then the whole thing escalated into a massive argument between them, and in the end, my dad went out to go somewhere quiet while my mom and brother had a conversation about the whole thing of her basically saying a swear word at all of us. Once my dad came back, everything was okay for a little bit, but then my mom wouldn't talk to me for some reason. At that point, I was still upset at her, so I didn't really care and I didn't think anything of it. Now, I think this part was my fault, but then yesterday, my dad called me to the kitchen and told me that he wanted me to apologize to my mom, and still being annoyed, I just mumbled that I was sorry, even though I didn't intend on her hearing me tell my brother what the swear word was, and didn't intend to make any snide remarks either. Then she wanted me to come over and talk about it, and I just went over, but I think she could tell that I didn't want to talk about it and started lecturing me on having a bad attitude and how I probably wasn't even sorry in the first place. Now, the truth is, I was kind of sorry, but I didn't want to let her know in case she thought it meant that none of it was her fault in the first place. She then started calling me wicked and said stuff like, how could you have such evil in your heart? I couldn't even imagine doing that to my own parents. Now, of course, I didn't want to apologize after that, since she was making a bigger deal out of the situation than necessary. My dad then came to my room to talk to me for a few minutes, and I was already a mess by then. And at that point, I was so angry that I told him I wasn't going to apologize if she was going to act like that. I think apart from the attempt at an apology, I said like 3 words to my mother the whole day. I still haven't said anything, and I'm not going to, because then what will likely happen is that she will think she got away with causing a fight. Now, as a side note, I'm a teenager, and I haven't actually heard her apologize to anyone a single time. This morning, my dad told me that I had to be at least starting to talk to her by the 9th, because that's when we're going on holiday. He said that I had to be a good daughter and be nice to her since she's my mother, all without giving any other reasons. Personally, I do not think that this is a good reason to let her get away with anything, because being ejected from somebody's loins does not qualify them for unconditional love. He then said he's gonna make me stay in the same room as her on holiday if I didn't at least say something to her, and I'm honestly just so sick of my entitled mother. Yeah, your mom sounds like a piece of work. She literally started arguments with you and the rest of the family for like no reason. Like you were telling the truth, you were not making some snide remark, but instead she's the one that took this to heights that were completely inappropriate. Like seriously, there's no reason to start swearing at people, lady, like calm down. And also, why in the world would she suggest somewhere for all of you to eat without acknowledging the obvious clues that yeah, you guys are already cooking something? Like that seems really controlling and weird in my opinion, and honestly super annoying. So I'm really sorry you had to deal with that, because seriously, you did not do anything wrong. And for your mom and your dad to try and make you apologize like that, in my opinion, was completely out of line. Am I the jerk for calling my neighbor a Karen when she threatened me with small claims court after I threw away their garbage that was scattered all over my backyard? Here's what happened. Okay, so I live with my wife and our 2 sons. We are homeowners and we have had trouble with our next door neighbors. They are a young nuclear family with 2 parents in their 30s with a little baby. We are not the type of neighbors to spy into yards or monitor what everyone is doing, so we hadn't really noticed that their backyard is a pigsty, at least not until our fence panels had been broken. These neighbors had been piling trash and leaning it up against our fence, and eventually the sheer weight of it had just broken it, causing it all to spill onto our yard. There were old pieces of wood and metal, garbage bags, pieces of furniture, and just general clutter. Well, I confronted the neighbors and informed them of what happened. I asked politely that they clear up the garbage and contribute some money towards a new fence. The husband said that he would sort it out, but after 2 weeks of no change, I knocked on their door again. The wife gave some excuse about how the baby has been crazy, but that they would get rid of the garbage as soon as possible. Well, fast forward another 3 weeks and still nothing has changed. I knocked on their door at 2 different times, left messages on their Ring doorbell, and messaged them both on Facebook, and it has been nothing but radio silence. They've also not given us any money for the fence, but to be honest, I don't even care. After no response for another week, I took matters into my own hands. I loaded up their garbage into my car and I took it to the dump. Well, they're now angry and said that we have no right to get rid of their stuff and that it's still their property. When the wife turned up at our door, we got into a small argument as she threatened me with small claims court, saying that we owe her and her husband money. Well, I called her a Karen and told her that if that stuff was so important, she shouldn't have left it littered around my yard, which is a place where my kids play, all for over a month. She says that they would have gotten rid of it if they were given a chance, and that the nearest dump is over an hour's drive away, and they don't have all the time in the world. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? You are definitely not the jerk, because you know what? That lady is 100% a Karen. So is her husband. I mean, this is the classic Karen and Kevin situation where they had ample time to fix this problem, but instead they ghosted you and refused to do anything about it. For starters, I would love to see these people go to small claims court, because not only have they littered on your property, but they also broke your fence. And it's not going to be hard to see that, yeah, you did not cause this. Also, my God, how much trash was on that fence? Like, even with a fence that is like kind of okay, it would have to take a lot of garbage. We're talking garbage here to make that thing topple over and cave in towards your side. And that is seriously insane to me. Like, that is so unacceptable. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think these people are out of their minds if they think that you're the problem here, because the way they acted towards you is honestly completely unacceptable. My entitled girlfriend demands that I give up the internet at our home and even force me to sell off my computer, my PS5, and my TV, claiming that she doesn't want any gaming or online activity at all in our house. So after agreeing to this and dedicating my life to spending time with her and her hobbies, she has slowly faded out of my life and has left me bored at home doing absolutely nothing. And now that I'm trying to bring the internet back into our house and try and participate in my own hobbies again, she freaked out on me and told me that this is a deal breaker, while also shouting that she wants me out of the house. So now I'm at a complete loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so we have lived together for over a year and we have our good and bad times, but lately it has been very rough. She's gone from the house all the time. She rarely shares where she is or where she's going, and she spends time with me less and less. I've talked to her about this and how I feel a need for more time together, but it's all to no avail. When we moved into this house to live together, she told me she didn't want to have Wi-Fi, internet, a TV, or a computer. All the things that I enjoy and used to love were hobbies like playing on my PlayStation 5, playing on my PC, watching sports, etc. But it was very important to her. I agreed and was more than willing to sell my things, earn some extra money, and focus on her and her hobbies. She much prefers board games and time in nature, and I honestly love those things too. At first, she gave me a lot of her time, and our time together was great. Lots of time with board games, outside, playing sports together, being active. I mean, so much time outside of work was just us. But over time, she has found new hobbies, as well as new things to do outside of us spending time together, and that has left me alone quite a lot lately. Sometimes for 5 to 10 hours a day, and some days less, but some days even more. So here's the problem. I'm bored. I have nothing to do but other things that I'm just not really interested in. I don't want to go out, but I don't want to be stuck here at my house by myself with nothing to do except do chores, be on my phone, or sleep. I told her I wanted to get back into gaming. I wanted to get a television, a PS5, and the internet. And when I told her that, she blew up at me. She was so angry. She yelled at me and refused to talk to me about it. She left the house for the rest of the day and was gone 7 to 8 hours. But during that time, instead of being bored again, while she was gone, I went ahead and did the things I said I was gonna do. Well, today is the following day, and I just told her what I purchased. And I did it to be clear about it and not hide it. Well, when I told her that, she got so angry. She said that I knew having internet was a deal breaker, and I did it anyways. She also said some hurtful things and then asked me to leave. Now, I'm sure I could have communicated this better, but I just want to know if I can save this somehow and still have something to do like gaming or watching some TV, even only while she's gone. I told her that while she's at home or when she wants to go out together, that I would always give her and the home 100% priority. And I truly mean that, but it honestly just didn't matter. So now I'm at a complete loss and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, your girlfriend, in my opinion, is being completely unreasonable. Like, there is no situation here where this behavior and this level of control is in any way acceptable. First of all, why on earth did you agree to this? The original poster sold all of their electronics, all to be with some girl and spend time with her. Like, for me, if someone came to me and said, you need to give up all your electronics and only spend time with me, I would look him in the eye and be like, no, that's not happening, sorry. Like, I can't actually imagine anybody embracing that reality and being like, you got it, babe, no internet ever again. And this goes beyond like video games or anything like that. Like, the internet, in my opinion, is no longer just like a luxury to have in the home. It is literally a utility that people use all the time. So to deny yourself of having that in your home if you have the availability and you can afford it, that in my opinion is like saying, okay, I just don't want any running water. And sure, water's different than the internet, but I think you get what I'm trying to say. And it's really suspicious to me that your girlfriend's like, focus on my hobbies instead of yours. And it's almost like there's no compromise at all. It's either her way or the highway. And that just does not seem fair in the slightest, like at all. This is seriously an insane situation. And in my opinion, it is absolutely crazy to me that you even agreed to this in the first place. Like, the only reason you sacrificed those things was so that you could spend time with her, but now she doesn't even spend time with you. You literally got rid of all of that for no reason. And the fact that she would react in the way that she did and freak out and be like, this is a deal breaker, you need to get out. Like, seriously, what is happening right now? So she can have all of her hobbies, but you can't have yours on your free time? It's not like you're neglecting her or the house or anything like that. You've made it very clear that when she is at home, you're gonna focus on her. So honestly, from my perspective, this whole situation is insane to me. And I just can't imagine being with a girlfriend who's gonna ask so much of me, but also be so unwilling to compromise even in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not inviting someone to my New Year's party after their son destroyed some of my amiibos in my collection at my previous party? Here's what happened. So I'm a 31-year-old male, and I usually host New Year's parties at my house. I have a considerable amount of amiibo figures that I have collected over the years. They're enclosed in a glass showcase that has a key. I keep it locked because 2 of my female friends have kids and I like having them over, so it's fine. Now, here's the thing. I have 3 mom friends in my group, and one of the moms, by the name of Lucy, that's not her real name, has a 6-year-old son. And at last New Year's party, I forgot the key in the showcase, and he ended up playing with my amiibos. Now, he was just playing with them, which would have been fine, but he actually ripped them off the bases, which ended up damaging a few of them. I ended up complaining and asked for her to pay me back for the damaged ones, but she just ridiculed it and brushed it off. So this year, out of a small amount of spite, I decided not to invite her, and no one at the party even seemed to notice. Well, today I get an angry text message saying that she really likes my party and it's a shame that I forgot she was my friend, while also asking me why I didn't invite her. I said it was because of what happened last year, that I didn't want her child near my collection ever again. She said that I was being childish squeamish and said that I was a jerk and that this is not a reason to not invite someone and that her child was just playing with them. Now, some friends say that it's okay and that it's understandable, but others think that I'm in the wrong. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I do not think you're the jerk in the slightest. This lady's son destroyed some of your personal property. I don't care what it was. Her child destroyed something of yours that probably cost you a lot of money just to obtain. The fact that this is a popular toy for like Nintendo Switches and stuff like that honestly doesn't matter to me. And the fact that she's trying to downplay this is also crazy to me because her son definitely destroyed your personal property. There's no other way around this. He damaged your stuff and destroyed something that is very important to you. And if Lucy had any sense in her head, she would do what she can to pay you back. Just because she thinks that it's childish that you have those in the first place doesn't mean that you're not justified to keep her from coming to your house. And if this lady, as well as your friends who think you're a jerk, really want to stick to that opinion, then maybe you should give out like the retail price as well as the selling price of these items and explain to them that some of these cost a lot of money and that they really meant a lot to you and you didn't want to lose them. That might be a good way to get through to these people, but overall, if I was in your shoes, I honestly would have done the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for uninviting my best friend from my wedding, all because she kept telling people that she dated my fiance first? Here's what happened. So my friend Isabel and I have been friends since we were born. Isabel is not my friend's real name. We were practically raised together. We were closer in college, but after that, we have been drifting apart a little, but I still had a strong bond with her up until recently. We have both been there for each other a lot through life, so this situation is really tough. After college, when Isabel was 23, she went on a few dates with my now fiance, who we will call Jake. Jake is not his real name, but then she told him that she wasn't interested in anything serious. Even though I was her best friend, I didn't really know Jake because she used to get asked out a lot, but only a few turned serious. So I knew about her boyfriends, but not necessarily her dates. Almost a year after that, I moved in with Isabel and so we got close again. And it was after this that I met Jake. We quickly became good friends, and I used to talk about him to Isabel a lot, but it's when I showed her his picture that she recognized him and told me about her dates with him. Friendships were more important to me than any guy back then, so I asked her if it was okay to date him because I liked him a lot. She said that she had no problem and joked about it ever turning into a relationship, which I took as a joke. Well, Jake and I became serious very quick. He is my soulmate. By then though, Isabel and I had lost touch a bit since I moved in with Jake, with work becoming more of a priority. Right until I got engaged, she used to still joke to both me and Jake that she didn't think that we would be this into each other. And at the time, I saw it was funny because Jake is the opposite of me. After I got engaged, she became really weird. She was very shocked and just would not believe it. Then later she used to tell me that I'm too young to be married, and if I'm sure, but I just saw this as concern, although she did agree to be my maid of honor along with my sister. Afterwards, I posted on my Instagram about our engagement, and people were reposting it and congratulating us. But Isabel just captioned it by saying, "You better mention me in your vows because he was into me first." Well, when we saw that, Jake and I were very uncomfortable with that. But I decided at the time to defend her, saying that it's just Isabel and she jokes around a lot. But I still let her know that it was a bit uncomfortable, and she said that she was joking. After Christmas, we hosted a party together, and on that day, Isabel just kept telling all the friends and family gathered that Jake dated her first, and that she let me have him. Even after telling her it was not okay, she still joked around. Later, I told her that she was crossing my boundaries and that it was not okay, to which she said that I was overreacting. Well, in the end, I told her to not attend my wedding at all. Now, I have been overthinking a lot after that, and right now, people who know about this are just choosing sides based on who they know more. I'm worried that I'm ruining a lifelong friendship when I'm not even right. What if to her, it really was just a joke, and I'm just not being understanding? But she is also not being supportive or positive, which I think is completely unfair. I'm really confused, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, in my opinion, I don't think she was joking around. It sounds like she's being very spiteful and very jealous of your situation. Clearly she missed out on a guy that could have been marriage material, and she's now letting you and everybody else know that she somehow played a hand in it, even though she didn't in the slightest. You met this guy a year later. It's not because of Isabel. So for her to say something like that is really uncalled for. In my opinion, she loses any any right to try and be like, oh, it's just a joke, especially right after you express your concerns that this really bothers you. And you even said it again at the Christmas party. You're like, hey, please stop doing that. It's really bothering me. And when she said, oh, you're just overreacting, that in my opinion would have been my last straw as well, because you have definitely made your opinion clear and you gave her multiple opportunities to fix her behavior, or there would be consequences for her crossing your boundaries. So no, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I think it's important for you to back up your boundaries, and I think it's totally appropriate for you to tell your friend that no, she cannot come to your wedding. Because if she's willing to do it here in front of friends and family, then you can bet she's gonna try that garbage at your wedding. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would not want that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not wanting to let my mother-in-law and her husband sleep in our bed while my husband and I are away traveling? Here's what happened. So we moved 3 months ago to my husband's birth town. His mother lives about an hour and a half away from us in a smaller city and occasionally stays over with us to do some errands. Even though we don't have the best of relationships due to some behaviors on her side, I don't mind her coming over, and I am a good host in any situation. At this time, my mom, her boyfriend, and my sister came from far away for New Year's and are staying over, and on my husband's request, they're staying for his birthday next week. While we travel, my mother will also be caring for our dog that is a bit sick. Well, today his mother texted asking to sleep in our bedroom tomorrow night while we travel. That was due to our guest bedroom being occupied by my family and she not wanting to be without air conditioning for the night. But honestly, I did not like this idea. To me, a bedroom is something extremely personal and private. I felt a huge invasion of privacy to share my bed and pillows with people, and also, I don't feel comfortable to let someone else in the privacy of our room. It's also important to say that I have issues with sleeping locations, as well as sharing personal space with people. It even took a while for me to be able to sleep with my husband. It is something extremely important to me, and my husband is aware of it. Now, we had different upbringings, and we sometimes have different views on society and social cues. He found no issue to let his mother and her husband in our room. He just doesn't really care, while I wouldn't allow my mom or anyone else sleep in our room unless the circumstances were extreme, such as sickness, old age, or surgery. This was something really clear in my household. Before I really had a conversation with my husband, I asked my mom and she agreed with me, also highlighting that she would not request that of me, that the marriage bed was something sacred and incredibly private. I don't really see the sacred thing as I'm not really religious, but I am 100% on the private aspect of it. His mother has close relatives that she stayed over all the time before we moved towns, and I don't see the need to be uncomfortable and invaded because she prefers to sleep with AC in our house. My husband and I talked earlier today, and our upbringings clashed. I am aware we have different mindsets, but I established clear boundaries on the things that matter, and this was something that mattered to me, and he said he couldn't understand how this was that big of an invasion, or even being that big of a deal, as it was only a bed and we could change the sheets later on, and honestly, I felt like this was just completely unfair. We agreed to disagree, and in the end, his mother won't be staying over. So was I the jerk for putting my quirk and my need for privacy over his mother's comfort? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Your house is not a hotel, so for her to literally be like, let me sleep in your bed while you're away, that in my opinion is super gross and not something I would be on board with at all. Because I think the original poster is 100% right. My bed is my bed for a reason, and I do not want anybody else sleeping in that bed. So I don't think you're the jerk at all, because this very clearly is a boundary that you're not willing to compromise on. My boyfriend only pays about 20% of the rent, leaving me with 80% for me to figure out on my own. And right about now, I'm starting to feel resentful towards him, even though the both of us are doing really well financially. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my boyfriend and I moved out together in August. I was ready to move out and get my first apartment, whereas he was fine with staying at his parents' home to avoid paying rent. For reference, I'm a 23-year-old female and he is 25 years old. We both have well-paying, stable jobs. We make about the same amount, with me making about $1,000 more a month, which makes sense because I work in a hospital and I'm often working overnight or I'm on call. I started looking for places over the summer and was open to getting a place for just myself or to share with him. It was obviously my preference to live with him, and so I had many chats with him trying to sway him to move in together. We lived 35 minutes away from each other, and his parents would only let me sleep over once a month. He told me he was ready to live live together, but didn't want to spend the money and was in no rush to move out. Because of this, I told him that I would be open to paying more of the rent as he has student loans and car payments that I don't have. I found an apartment that I liked, and he was open to moving in together on the agreement that I paid $1,500 a month and he pays $350 per month. I agreed because I love him and I wanted to live with him really badly. I knew he would be very happy once he moved out and would love to have his own place to have all of his friends over. I also felt bad because I felt like I pushed him to move out when he didn't need to, so I was okay with this agreement. I've known since I met him that he is obsessed with money and it is one of his biggest red flags, but I admired that he was good with his money and responsible with it. Although it wasn't set in stone, we had discussed that he would pay for dinners and other things since I was paying so much in rent. At the time, I didn't think it was a big deal to clarify because I figured he would have no problem helping out. As I said, we moved into our apartment in August and he loves it. He loves having his friends over whenever he wants, as well as the independence from his family. Well, it's January now, and I find myself feeling resentful and taken advantage of. Everything else in our life is split in half besides drinks at the bar. For example, we just went grocery shopping and it was $160. He said to Venmo him $75. I said that my food was only worth $50, so I was planning to send him that. And this is my first time saying this. I mean, I usually just send half anyways, but this time he took the receipt from me and counted up all of my charges incorrectly, by the way, and said that I was wrong. Even if it was more money though, I think the least he could do is pay the grocery bill occasionally. Well, after that, I got mad and I stormed off. I thought he would be thankful that I helped out so much and would have no problem with buying me dinners and groceries or even something nice from time to time. He didn't even get me a card or flowers for our 1-year anniversary, but it always comes down to money. I would understand if he struggled financially, but he's not at all. I can't help but begin to feel resentful and I feel taken advantage of because he knows how much I love him and I would put up with so much for him. But at the same time, I agreed to this and I convinced him to move in with me when he wasn't 100% ready. Am I being fair or unreasonable here? What should I do? Personally, you've given him several months to get settled and have some kind of footing when it comes to this apartment. So if you were to come back in the new year and say, hey, I think it's time that we start splitting the rent. Because honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would probably get resentful as well. Think about it for a second. You both basically make the same amount of money and this guy's paying almost no rent. If I was in your shoes, I would be ticked off. And I would also be really upset that he is really gonna penny pinch and be like, wait a second, that's not what the receipt says. Especially when you went grocery shopping that one time as an example. That seems really petty and so unnecessary. Now for context, the original poster stated that combined through the both of them, they make about $25,000 a month. So there's really no good excuse that they couldn't just split the rent and go from there. Everything else is split down the line, why can't this also be tacked on? You've given him several months to get settled in. He loves having the independence and the freedom, but with that freedom and independence definitely comes at the cost of paying rent. So in my opinion, I don't think he would be in the wrong for asking that, and I think it would be really, really weird for him to be like, well, this is not what we agreed on, because right now the agreement you guys agreed to is really skewed in his favor. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would definitely be upset as well. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.